Great Tribal Chief. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 426, Pinyin Zuian, Happy New Year and number 039:S Day. The message sent by the Bighorn Sheep himself was written in great detail. Well, although the North American Indians of this era have different languages, they do not have systematic writing. In fact, in this era, apart from the Maya civilization, which has its own system of writing, no other Indian tribes have their own system of writing. The Indian civilization of the North American continent lags behind the Indian civilization of Central and South America, and they naturally do not have their own systematic writing. Therefore, in order to ensure the rapid delivery of news, the soldiers of the Burst Bear Brigade, especially the officers, must learn how to write while receiving training. Of course, this kind of text is naturally the Pinyin alphabet in the first grade textbook of Huaxia Primary School. To say that this phonetic alphabet is indeed a very magical phonetic method, almost anything in this world, anything, any language. Anything that can be expressed in language can be spelled out with Pinyin. And whether it is Chinese, or English, Latin, French, German. As long as it is a language that can be spoken, you can slowly separate it, and you can use Pinyin to express it. Although the North American Indians do not have their own writing, they do have their own language. Therefore, as long as there is a language, it can also be shown to you by Pinyin phonetic notation. For example, the name of the chief of the Cherokee tribe is Junaruska, which means guardian of the vast land. Of course, the latter is translated into Chinese, while the former is the pronunciation of Cherokee. In the Cherokee tribe, as long as you say Junaruska, you know that he is the guardian of the vast land and the chief. And Pinyin phonetic notation can also express the 5 characters Junaruska, Junalusika. It is as simple as that. Compared with English, French, and Latin, which have more troublesome Chinese characters, this Pinyin phonetic notation is obviously better to learn, as long as you learn 23 initials, 24 vowels, and 16 overall recognition syllables, plus the 5 tonal symbols of Yinping, Yangping, Shangxing, Qing and Qingxing. Then almost all of the world's everything can be represented by Pinyin phonetic notation. This is definitely the easiest to learn in the world, and it is also the most efficient way of expressing words. Well, Huaxia people are just such a cow, not accept it. Although English has only 26 English letters, how many English words are there? There are also grammar and so on. Don't you see that the children of the new century began to learn English from the first grade of elementary school? How many of them can pass the 6th level of English after graduation? But how about Chinese Pinyin? You can learn it in a few months, and this phonetic method can be used for a lifetime, even if you don't understand a foreign language. As long as you can hear the pronunciation of the foreign language clearly, then you can describe those foreign languages by Pinyin. For example, the pronunciation of table in English can be expressed as desk in Pinyin, and good morning can be expressed as good cat ning. Anyway, if you use Pinyin phonetic notation to say it, how many of the 10 British people can understand what you say, although you don't know what you say? All in all, Pinyin Zuian is definitely a very magical and very efficient way of phonetic transcription. Shi Xiong does not demand that these Indian guys learn words. He only needs these guys to be able to use Pinyin to express what he wants to say. It's that simple. However, even with such a simple phonetic method, these soldiers were reluctant to learn it at first. No way, it's all a bunch of rough guys. You can let them hunt and kill people, you let them learn this thing. It is really difficult for them to accept. So Shi Xiong moved out the omnipotent and all-inclusive Supreme Sun God, and then, even the most mischievous and difficult warriors would sit down and learn this strange Pinyin alphabet. There are 63 Pinyin plus 5 tonal symbols in total. Why is this difficult to learn? It is mandatory to memorize it one day, and then it must be recited 3 times a day. Unless you are a fool, you can master it 100% in a month. If you still can't master it, then it must be unfaithful to learn. Dealing with this kind of dishonest guy is also very simple. Put him in confinement for 2 days. After he comes out, he has to ask his grandpa to tell his grandma to learn quickly. Since it is a regular army, some ways of doing things don't need to be so tactful, just push it directly and forcefully. Do you dare to be dissatisfied or disobedient? Hey, the army is to deal with all kinds of disobedience and disobedience. At the beginning, Shi Xiong hadn't thought of the pinyin phonetic method. After all, at that time, the information was transmitted through the mouth or the horn. But since the bird was discovered in the Eastern expedition, Stone Bear prepared to establish a communication system based on the carrier pigeon in the Gaoshu tribe in the Burst Bear Brigade. This text must appear. But at that time Shi Xiong still didn't think of using the magical skill of Chinese pinyin. One day, Stone Bear drank some wine and saw the neighing of the horses outside, which reminded him of a Hollywood blockbuster he had seen in his previous life. It seemed to be played by the big-faced Nicolas Cage, named The Wind Whisperer. That movie was changed based on real events. It was about the early days of World War II in the Pacific battlefield. The little devil could always use various methods to decipher the secret code of the U.S. military, which caused the U.S. military to suffer on the battlefield. In order to change this situation, the U.S. military enlisted 29 Indian Navajo people into the army. Because their language was not understood by foreigners, the U.S. military trained them into specialized translators, known as wind whispers. Since Navajo languages can be used as passwords, why can't we use Cherokee as passwords? Moreover, in this era, there is no way of pinyin phonetication at all, so if you use the phonetic method to express Cherokee, who can understand it? Therefore, our Son of God, our Kabul sacrificial guardian, and our pig's feet, just like that, with a brainstorm, moved the phonetic transcription of Chinese pinyin. Well, I'm not the inventor of words, I'm just a man, the porter of language expression. Not to mention, under the high-pressure policy of Shi Xiong, a stick in the name of Supreme Sun God, all the soldiers of the Burst Bear Brigade learned how to use pinyin phonetic notation for more than 2 months. The officers in the Burst Bear Brigade are even more proficient in using this method to convey information. It's like this message is that Bighorn sheep is written on paper using pinyin phonetic notation, and then the cute and hard-working little pigeon traverses hundreds of kilometers of mountains and rivers and is finally delivered to Shi Xiong. There is a lot of information written, but it is just a few points. When the Westward Army attacked a large tribe of the Chickasaw clan, www.wuxiaspa.com, a thin man named Akshaka was captured. This guy claimed to be the liaison officer of the Chickasaw court and was responsible for it. The connection between the Chickasaw and the French. Akshaka means revenge in Chickasaw, and the ghost knew why this skinny man had such a strange name. However, this does not affect the fact that this guy couldn't stand the harsh torture and finally revealed the position of the Chickasaw palace. In the end, according to the information this guy said, the Westward Army destroyed all the way and directly killed the royal court of the Chickasaw tribe. After several rounds of volleys of hundreds of shotguns, the 4 tribes guarding the Chickasaw palace directly collapsed, and the Chickasaw palace was broken. All of the Chickasaw leaders, including the chiefs and high priests of the Chickasaw tribe, were arrested by the Bighorn sheep. The set implemented by the Expeditionary Army in the Cree tribe was used by the Bighorn sheep on the Chickasaws. Chapter 427, Be Merciful. 4 days later, the Westward Army and the Northward Army successfully merged. Boss, I arranged for the 3rd Battalion of the 4th Regiment to send those people from the Chickasaw royal family back to the royal court of our tribe. It is very inconvenient to take those guys, and it was a waste of our rations. When we met Bighorn sheep, I told Shi Xiong this important news. Now the Bighorn sheep has completely integrated into the Burst Bear Brigade, and even the name Shi Xiong has become the same as other high-ranking military officers. He is now called Shi Xiong and is also the head. Bighorn sheep, you are right to do this. Although the Chickasaws are very annoying, I wish I could kill them all, but after all, they are also our compatriots, so the chief of Chickasaw and the high priest cannot die. We need them to help us subdue these Chickasaws. It is the right choice for you to send them back. It is too unsafe for them to march with us." Hearing Shi Xiong's words, the bighorn sheep touched his chin and smiled bitterly. "Boss, our westward army has been killing Chicashes along the way. I also want these Chicashes to give in, but there's the will to resist is very strong. I would rather die than belong to us. Therefore, I can only kill the killer." Shi Xiong waved his hand and said, "In the far and mysterious East, there is a great country. There is a saying in that country that is very good. It is called mercifulness not to command soldiers. It means that as an army commander, mercy, it's best not to bring this kind of compassion into the army, otherwise it's easy to cause unnecessary casualties to your subordinates because of your temporary mercy." After that, Shi Xiong turned around and looked at the middle and high-level officer of the Burst Bear Brigade standing in front of him and continued, "The army is actually the most violent organization of a tribe or even a country. The army is for killing, so, the essence of the army is killing, and as the commander and manager of this army, since we are leading this army, our primary goal is to kill the enemy to protect ourselves and protect our brothers' life. Because only the lives of brothers can be guaranteed, they can cause greater damage to the enemy and protect the lives of the tribes and people behind us. The army is a wall used to protect the tribesmen and tribes, and at the same time a wall for external killings. The executor of the war is the army, our brother. Therefore, as commanders, we must always keep in mind that we must completely defeat the enemy, no matter what method is used. As long as we can defeat the enemy, then we are a qualified army. As for killing those Chicashes, what about it? Where can war be without death and bloodshed? The difference is just how many dead." "Bighorn sheep, I ask you, when the expeditionary army went to attack your Cree tribe, were there few people dead?" The bighorn sheep shook his head sadly. "This is war." Shi Xiong's voice rose sharply. "Remember, as long as it is war, there is no undead, and you, the commanders of the Burst Bear Brigade, you are commanding brothers. When dealing with the enemy, you cannot have any kind of compassion for the enemy. It is your responsibility to kill and defeat the enemy. Do you understand?" "Understood," the officers shouted in unison. This sound drew the sight of the soldiers of the Burst Bear Brigade nearby. The bighorn sheep said with shame, "Boss, I understand what you mean. Just understand. Don't feel any guilt for the dead Chicasses. I asked you to lead the westward army to kill those Chicasses. You did a great job, without any fault." After saying this to the bighorn sheep, Shi Xiong looked at these army officers and said loudly, "You also have to remember this. On the battlefield, as long as you don't surrender, then either you die or I live. There is no third way. Choice. So, for the sake of your brothers and your own lives, killing the enemy is the best way." The crowd responded with a bang again. "There are hardly any tribesmen who have drunk this kind of chicken soup. How can they stand the chicken soup that Shi Xiong poured down one after another?" Every one of them was said by the stone bears as if they were beaten in blood. "I wish I could kill 100 times or 100 times tomorrow. After the two armies converge, it will naturally take 2 days to repair. Now the entire explosive bear brigade has lost 2 battalions with 600 people, 1 battalion to send off the high levels of the Chicasha Palace, and 1 battalion is stationed in the Akron Fortress, so now the explosive bear brigade has about 4,500 people." After repairing for 2 days, Shi Xiong decided to divide his troops again. "Bighorn sheep, you take the westward army to continue the westward march and knock down the French military fortress on the east bank of the river in the southwest. Can you do it?" In the big tent serving as the headquarters, Shi Xiong pointed to the black spot on the simple map I hand-painted. Asked the bighorn sheep. The location represented by the black dot is Memphis for later generations. Now it is not called Memphis, but the French built a military fort there early. "Boss, leave the job to me. I promise to get rid of all those Vasicchus," the bighorn sheep said happily. "Well, let's drop this time. The westward army you led is equipped with more 55 mortars, so that it can be easier to attack the French military fortresses. 15 55 mortars are under your control. Remember, live, when we fight the French military fortress, We would rather spend more ammunition than let our brothers charge and risk easily. Although the French fortress guns are not accurate, they are still very powerful, so we are attacking the fortresses. At the time www.wuxiaspa.com, the first knockouts were those fortress cannons. Don't worry, I know what to do. Hey, 1555 mortars, I promise to blow up all the French people's shit. Although, this is vulgar, but if you ask these rough guys to speak elegantly, they won't say it. And the bighorn sheep is right. In this era, if 1555 mortars are set on fire, this can really blow up the French feces. After you build that fortress, rely on that fortress to see if you can cross the river and look west. The Arkansas on the west of the river and the Mississippi on the south seem a bit dishonest. If they dare to stab them, I didn't say anything, just do it. It's best to beat them down in one go. Remember what I said yesterday? Yeah, the bighorn sheep nodded heavily. I will leave it to you on the west side. I will lead the 1st Regiment to continue to destroy those Chickasaws in this area. There are still some Chickasaw tribes in the north and south that have not been patronized. I will lead my brothers to kill those Chickasaws. The tribe, you will continue to lead the Westward Army to the west tomorrow. If anything happens, let's keep in touch with the pigeons and pay attention to safety. Chapter 428 picked up another big bargain. The Stone Bear led the remaining 700 soldiers of the 1st Regiment and began to attack the Kaza tribe to the north, while the Bighorn Sheep led the remaining soldiers of the Burst Bear Brigade to continue to the southwest. Their destination was the later Memphis. Now and there is a French military fortress in that area. Since you have to make up your mind to control the Mi River, then these two fortresses must be taken down. In fact, by this time, the entire Chickasaw tribe has been completely messed up, and Wancourt has been given a pot by the explosive Bear Brigade. Can they not mess up? Shi Xiong led the team all the way north. The destination was Akron Fortress, but his marching route was not a straight line. After smoothly killing the first Chickasaw tribe he encountered, his team had two more. In order to save his life, he became the guide of Chickasaw. Otherwise, the decline or demise of a tribe or even a nation is often accompanied by the appearance of countless traitors and traitors. Although the Chickasaws hated the Cherokees, they still couldn't stop this kind of that fell to the Bear Brigade under the pressure of death. In any time period and country throughout the ages, in the choice of death and survival, most people will choose the latter. Once you choose the latter, all kinds of traitors and traitors will appear. With the existence of two Chickasaws who are familiar with the local situation, everything went smoother. On the land between the Tennessee River and the Mi River, the marching route of the soldiers of the 700 Burst Bear Brigade showed a zigzag pattern, so that all the Chickasaw tribes encountered along the way could be wiped out. Of course, this kind of cleansing is not a blind massacre, although Shi Xiong has no affection for Chickasaws. After all, these are all lives, and Shi Xiong thinks he can't even kill people when he sees them. As long as it is a tribe that is willing to submit, the Burst Bear Brigade will let it go, but this is rare. The vast majority of tribes encountered resisted to the death. Anyway, of the more than 20 tribes encountered along the way, only 4 or 5 of them could be retained. In this regard, Shi Xiong has no choice. Why can't you say that the Chickasaw can be like the Cree and the Powhatan? Your royal court has been taken over. What else do you insist on? Is it because we are Cherokee that you do this? Days of killing made Stone Bear a little tired, but fortunately, the team finally returned to Akron Fortress after walking for more than 20 days. What surprised Stone Bear was that on the night of his arrival at Akron Fortress, 4 inland armed transport ships downstream from the upper reaches of the Russian River docked on the pier outside Akron Fortress. Facing the big gift delivered to the door, Shi Xiong naturally accepted it unceremoniously. When more than 40 sailors stared dumbfounded at the group of natives who suddenly appeared, and after the Akron Fortress was also occupied by these natives, they completely turned into frosted eggplants. Although the 7 Years' War ended 4 years ago, and the huge French Louisiana and New France were ceded to Great Britain, the French did not withdraw from here. After all, those French nobles can't bear the resources here. Now the British do not have the power to move westward, and the number of French colonists in the New World of North America is far less than that of the British colonists, so the British will temporarily turn a blind eye. At this time, Britain had close to 2 million colonists in the 13 colonies in North America, while the French colonists in the wider French Louisiana and New France had only a mere 100,000, so the British people don't worry about what these French colonists can do. And although the War of Independence has not yet broken out, the resistance of the 13 British colonies in North America has become increasingly fierce. Now even if the British are capable, they can only take care of their 13 colonies. They are also powerless for the newly acquired New France and French Louisiana. In fact, the British have never really obtained French Louisiana. Otherwise, after the founding of the United States, the Thomas Jefferson government would not purchase a large area of French Louisiana from the French in the early 19th century. Yes, the famous Louisiana Purchase in the early 19th century was a deal between the United States and France. At that time, the Jefferson government bought about 530 million acres, or about 2,150,000 square kilometers, from the French at a price of 3 cents per acre. The land area involved in the purchase of the land was approximately equivalent to 22.3% of the land of later generations of America, roughly the same as the original land area of the United States in the early 19th century. The total value of this transaction is $15 million or the equivalent of 80 million francs. What does this price mean? Quite simply, this price would be equivalent to about $600 billion when it was worn by the later generations of the 21st century Stone Bear Soul. The money was given to the French by the Americans, not to the British. It can be seen that although the French lost French Louisiana and New France in the 7 Years' War, they are still the actual owners of this large piece of land. Of course, this qualification was recognized by all European countries at the time, but it was not recognized by the original owner of this land, that is, the Indians. Now that Shi Xiong is here, he will naturally not let this happen again. This is the territory of the Indians. This is not the territory of your European colonists. Whether to sell or not, how to sell, it's up to us, not to you Vassachu. Stone Bears who are familiar with this period of history have even less favorable impressions of the French. You said that in the Paris Peace Treaty of 1763, you ceded the French Louisiana area east of the Mississippi to the British, but 20 years later you took advantage of the British losing the War of Independence. In another 1783 Peace of Paris the land was taken back. Do you still have some billion? You French people really think this piece of land belongs to you? Now there is Lao Tzu, let Lao Tzu see how you occupy this land again. As for the 4 ships delivered to the door, I will accept www.wuxiaspa.com for a little interest. 4 more inland armed transport ships were added for no reason, and the number of inland armed transport ships owned by the Explosive Bear Brigade has reached 10. This number has almost accounted for a quarter of the number of transport ships that the French sailed on the Mi River Channel. The most important thing is that with these 10 inland river armed transport ships, Shi Xiong can directly put the troops of a regiment to any place in Mai. As long as Shi Xiong wants to, he can even knock down New Orleans. That's right, don't look at New Orleans now heavily guarded, but in this era, no one can withstand dozens or even hundreds of mortars. Only now that New Orleans is owned by the Spaniards, Shi Xiong has no plans to dare his face with the Spaniards. Everything has to wait until the War of Independence starts before a decision can be made depending on the situation. But with these 10 inland river armed transport ships, it definitely gave Shi Xiong an extra card in his hand. Just as Shi Xiong was thinking about future plans and blueprints, a message accompanied a carrier pigeon to the fortress of Akron. Chapter 429, Home. No more, Master Guardian, I just received a carrier pigeon flying over from the tribe, and news has been sent from the tribe. The little bird hurriedly found the Stone Bear watching the soldiers build houses, and said respectfully. Shi Xiong took the small bamboo tube sealed with wax, checked that the wax seal on it had not been opened, and nodded with satisfaction. This kind of small bamboo tube is made of small bamboo roots. It is very thin, light and not long, It is tied to the feet of the homing pigeon and does not affect the flight of the homing pigeon. The message to be delivered is stuffed in this kind of small bamboo tube and sealed with wax after closing the cover. Although a preliminary carrier pigeon communication network has been established between the tribe and the Boom Bear Brigade under the auspices of Xiong, after all, the development time of pigeon communication is too short, and Xiong does not have many pigeons in his hands. So in addition to the extremely important in addition to the information that needs to be delivered by carrier pigeons, other ordinary messages will not be delivered by carrier pigeons, for fear of occupying carrier pigeon resources. In fact, the Burst Bear Brigade has been out for a month, and the news delivered by the carrier pigeons has only been a few times. Xiong frowned while holding the small bamboo tube. What important news does the tribe have to use the homing pigeons at this time? Ignoring the heated house repair scene, Xiong turned and left here, and while walking, opened the wax-sealed small bamboo tube. Inside was a piece of paper. After opening it, Xiong's face suddenly turned pale after looking at it twice. By the time he read the message passed by Pinyin on this piece of paper, his face had become indistinguishable from a piece of coal. "Everyone, gather at once!" A loud roar rang out suddenly, and all the soldiers busy in Okran Fortress focused their eyes on the roaring person. In the next moment, all the soldiers dropped what they were holding. No matter what they were doing, they gathered at the big man who roared at a crazy speed. In the eyes of all the soldiers of the Burst Bear Brigade, this tall and somewhat terrifying guardian is their heaven. But now, the sky suddenly changed color, and all the soldiers could feel the violent anger that burst out from the guardian, which made all the soldiers feel a sense of anger in their hearts while wondering, who dares to provoke our boss so angry? Doesn't he want to live anymore? Not even a minute. Xiong's eyes gathered together more than 800 soldiers from the 1st Regiment of the Burst Bear Brigade, and most of the other soldiers who did not come were on guard outside the fortress. Xiong's eyes flushed with rage looked at the brothers in front of him and shouted, "I'm telling you a very bad news. Our home, our Gaoshu tribe, was actually given to you by the royal family of our tribe." That's it. Everyone, including the high priest Kabru and the Bigfoot chief, was taken away by people from the royal court. Now there are only a few old, weak, sick and young in the tribe. As soon as Xiong uttered these words, the soldiers suddenly made a noise. But soon, good discipline calmed them down again, but there was an expression of anger and disbelief on their faces. As the leader of the 1st Regiment, Kuema directly asked Xiong, "Boss, can you tell me why?" Xiong shook his head and raised the piece of paper in his hand that carried the news, and said, "This is the news I just received from the carrier pigeon. It's a pity that the news is very brief and messy, just saying our relatives and clansmen were taken away by the army from the royal court, but the specific reason was not clear. Judging from the messiness of this letter, this should be written by the brothers who stayed behind in the tribe in a panic. It is estimated that the brothers should not have time to write down why Wang Ting did it, and it is very likely that the brother himself did not understand why Wang Ting did it, but there is no doubt that this message should be a piece of information. The real news: our home was taken by the royal court's army, and our people were all taken away by the royal court's army." The scene suddenly fell silent. The 1st Regiment of the Burst Bear Brigade was the pro-army of the Stone Bear, and all of them were composed of fighters from the Gaoshu tribe. If what the guardian said is true, then the matter is really big. Kuema showed his calmness at this time. Over the past few years of training, he has turned from a young boy into a calm senior commander. "Boss, what should we do?" "Say it, we all listen to you," Kuema said in a deep voice. Xiong nodded and said, "If this news is really true as I judged it, now our people should be on their way to the royal court. I don't know why the royal court did this, but I can be pretty sure," said, "no matter why the royal court does this, we will rescue our relatives." "Brothers, if you rebel against this tribe for this, would you like to follow me? The soul of this body comes from later generations more than 200 years later." Naturally, the Stone Bear has no sense of belonging to the royal court of the Cherokee tribe. For him, the Gaoshu tribe is his home, and there is also his wife and unborn child there. Therefore, no matter what reason the royal court did, Xiong would rescue all his relatives and clansmen. even if he rebelled against the Cherokee tribe for this reason. When Shi Xiong said this, the soldiers were silent again, but from the expressions on their faces, some people hesitated. Kuema said at this time, "Brothers, I don't know why the royal court did this, but for whatever reason, I think it's wrong for the royal court to do this. We are working hard outside to expand our power for the tribe. In terms of scope, we defeated the powerful Cree tribe, we conquered the Powhatans in the east, and now we have also taken away the royal court of the mortal enemy Chicasa. We have a great contribution to the entire tribe, but Wang Ting did this and took away our relatives. Don't they know what we did? Don't they ignore our merits?" After a pause, Kuema said loudly again, "I don't care about other tribes, and I can't control at www.wuxiaspot.com, but you should know the situation of our Gaoshu tribe best. I and Master Guardian, it was from the long-hair cattle tribe who fled to the Gaoshu tribe. It was the Gaoshu tribe who accepted us and gave us a home. Moreover, the Gaoshu tribe has been getting better and better over the years under the leadership of Lord Guardian Strong. You should know this best. Although many of you are returning to the High Tree tribe, we are all a family, and if there is no Master Guardian, many of you may still be the same. The small tribe lives hard, but because of the Guardian, you can live a good life now. Your family members will not worry about the enemy attacking day and night, nor do you have to worry about not having enough food. All of this can be done. It is said that it was brought by the Guardian. Now, the royal court has taken our relatives regardless of reason and without reason. Can we allow the royal court to do this? No. Shi Xiong's answer suddenly sounded, and the hesitation on the faces of the soldiers disappeared, replaced by a face of determination. Shi Xiong nodded at Kuema, very satisfied, and then said loudly, "Get equipped immediately. The 300 brothers who stayed behind in the fortress are still here. I will definitely bring your relatives back." The rangers got on the horse and returned on the same road. The others got on the boat with me. We immediately rushed back to the tribe to see what happened at the bottom. The crowd responded with a slam. Chapter 430. One instant decision. Fortunately, 4 more inland armed transport ships were captured 2 days ago, so counting the 2 captured before, 10 ships are now moored on the Tennessee River outside Fort Acuron. This kind of armed transport ship can not only transport things, but also people. If a boat does not pull horses, it can pull about 100 people. Acuron Fortress left 300 Burst Bear Brigade soldiers, and after deducting 200 rangers on horsebacks, it was very easy for the remaining 500 people to take these 10 ships back to the Gaoshu tribe. The captured French sailors also came in handy again. There are not many people in the tribe who can drive boats, and they can only operate 4 inland river armed transport ships, and the 60 or so French sailors who were captured could just drive the remaining 6 ships, which were originally started by them. Arriving from the Acuron fortress to the Gaoshu tribe is a boat against the current. Although this type of inland river armed transport ship is powered by sails, it can move forward against the wind, but after all, it is upstream, so the speed is not very fast. Moreover, in this era, boats on the inland rivers are basically non-navigating at night. Inland navigation is not the same as sailing on the sea. Navigation can still be sailed at night, but in this era without lighting and GPS, it is usually impossible to sail at night. The channel is too narrow to see anything at night, and it is easy to run aground or even hit the rocks. In fact, even in the daytime, if you don't pay attention to or are not familiar with the waterway, it's easy to get into trouble. An example is the fleet under the command of Félix Frenin. The sailing in broad daylight caused the fleet to hit the rocks and sink because of the strong crosswind blown by the snowstorm. Therefore, even if the northwest wind is blowing in the past 2 days, it is downwind, but the speed of the fleet is still not very fast. It took more than 7 days for the fleet to arrive at the Gaoshu tribe. This is because the Stone Bear should try to extend the sailing time each day as far as possible while ensuring safety, otherwise it would take more time. When the Stone Bear fleet arrived at the pier to the west of the Gaoshu tribe, the 200 rangers also rushed to the west with the dust, and the soldiers of the 1st Regiment of the 700 Blasting Bear Brigade gathered together again. The arrival of the fleet made the Gaoshu tribe boil, A large group of old, weak, sick and young all came out. After seeing the tall figure of the guardian, all of them wept bitterly. Although he hasn't asked these people, the current situation has cooled Shi Xiong's heart by half. Obviously, what the news said was true. Now there are only a few old, weak, sick and young in the tribe. The stronger people, including women, have all been taken away by the royal court. The gray moose came over with a gray face. Although he didn't cry, he seemed to be 20 years old. He was not young before. At this time, his face was full of wrinkles and his hair was white. "Uncle, Gray Moose, what happened in the tribe?" "It was really the army from the royal court who took all the people from our tribe." Shi Xiong didn't care about the greetings at this time, and grabbed the slightly lean gray moose with both hands, asked his shoulders anxiously. There was a look of pain on the gray moose's old face, and Shi Xiong realized that he hadn't controlled his strength well. Letting go of the gray moose's shoulders, the gray moose looked bitterly at the big man in front of him, and sighed deeply and said, "Guardian, the army from the royal court has captured all the members of our tribe. Now in the tribe we are the only old, weak, sick and young." Tears shed tears on the old man's face. Shi Xiong raised his head and yelled, "Don't talk anymore. First listen to Uncle Gray Moose talk about what happened." The audience suddenly fell silent. Now the leader of the tribe, the high priest of Kabru and other high-level tribes have all been captured, and the guardian is the Optimus Prime of the tribe. That day, I took some tribesmen to guard the Vasiku digging for salt in the Oyan Mountain, and then a child from the tribe ran over and told me that a large number of warriors had come and they were arresting people in the tribe. Gray Moose began to tell while remembering. "I felt that something was wrong at the time, but the little bison was still young and he didn't know about some things. So I told the people who guarded Waxico not to act trashly, and took those Waxico to the valley to the north. I and the little bison quietly returned to the tribe to see what happened." The Gray Moose is the project manager responsible for salt production. All the people who dig salt in the Oyan Shan and make salt in the tribe are under his management. He was naturally normal in the Oyan Shan when the accident happened. Moreover, the Oyan Mountain is more than 1 kilometer away from the tribe, and it is in a relatively remote place. Although it is connected by a road, it is normal for the king's army to not find it in the first time. As for the child named Little Bison mentioned by the Gray Moose, Shi Xiong also knows him. He is a little guy in the tribe who is about 5 or 6 years old. He can toss and be naughty. When Little Bison and I returned to the tribe, we saw Hongi Unsacrifice arguing with people from the royal court. There were many people from the royal court, 2,000 or 3,000 people. And these people occupied almost all the important parts of the tribe. Our tribe, all of the fortifications were also occupied by these guys. Shi Xiong suddenly asked, "Don't the soldiers we stay behind resist?" The Gray Moose smiled bitterly and shook his head. "There is no resistance. Mainly who can believe that the people from the royal court suddenly did it? Our soldiers were all subdued by those people without defense." Shi Xiong was silent. At that time, because I was far away from the Hongi Unsacrifice, I didn't listen to all of what they said, but some of the remaining people listened to them. I have come together these days, and it's roughly like this. The royal court came to the army under the guise of the chief's inspection, but the chief did not come. But we can't stop them from entering the tribe. After all, they are from the royal court. Later we learned that the King Shan was there as early as before they arrived at the tribe. They had already been controlled by them, and the people over there were also taken away by them. At that time, the Hongi priest asked them why they did this. The guy in the lead said that our tribe did not obey the orders of the royal court, and he also said that our tribe showed signs of rebelling against the royal court, so the chief ordered all members of our tribe to be taken away. Of course, the Hongi Unsacrifice was quit, so the two of them quarreled, but our people were controlled. So in the end even the Hongi Unsacrifice was taken away by those people. www.wuxiaspad.com. No need to have. Such a word suddenly popped out of the Iron Greenstone Bear's mind, and then he remembered the series of events that happened last winter, as well as the words said by the Bighorn Sheep. Sure enough, Chief Junaruska was wary of the Gaoshu tribe, or that guy is simply coveting the control of the explosive bear brigade. Combined with the Grey Moose's statement, the Stone Bear almost instantly want to understand the key. But, wouldn't you be afraid that Lao Tzu would really turn you back by doing this? Or did you, Chief Junaruska, think that the one who captured us could let me cast a rat avoidance weapon and give you the command of the Burst Bear Brigade? You really think I'm a great mallet? Although it is still unclear why Chief Junaruska issued such an order and made such a move, in an instant, Shi Xiong made his own decision. P.S. A condolence Wu Axia, man, I'm really sorry, I didn't engage in reader exchange groups for this book, because Lao Mo is usually too busy to communicate. Chapter 431, Miserable Condition. Although the decision had been made, Shi Xiong was not in a hurry to chase the king's army. It was not that Shi Xiong was afraid of the army sent by Wang Ting. Even if there are only 700 soldiers in the 1st Regiment of the Burst Bear Brigade, it is easy to use it against the thousands of troops in the royal court. After all, the weapon gap lies there. At the beginning, the expeditionary army had only more than 2,000 people, and it was able to defeat more than 20,000 people of the Cree in a single battle, relying on the great superiority of weapons. Now these 700 soldiers not only have a more powerful blasting rifle, but also a grenadier and 55 mortar, which is not what the king's army can stop. The reason why Shi Xiong didn't rush to chase him was because Shi Xiong knew very well that even if he set off now and chased them day and night, he would not be able to catch up with them before the king's army returned to the king's court. And even if it catches up, once a war breaks out between the two sides, it will almost certainly affect the captured clansmen. Since Junaluska dared to do such a thing, he might not be unable to do even worse things. The most important thing is that the first group of soldiers who have just returned from the rush march also needs a day to repair. Therefore, the Stone Bear did not rush to chase, but first observed the current situation of the tribe. He took Tep, who had escaped by drilling in the forest, and began to check the situation of the tribe. Speaking of Tep, this guy is also lucky. Everyone in the tribe knows that this half-big bear that is about to grow up is the son of the guardian. When Tep was young, the little dolls in the tribe were all it is Tep's playmate, but as Tep gets bigger and bigger, Stone Bear will take it with him to learn hunting from time to time after he comes back. So Tep, who has grown up, started to drill in the mountains and learn by himself when his father was gone. Hunting. After all, it is a brown bear, and the hunting nature cannot be obliterated. On the day of the accident, Tep escaped by drilling into the mountains early in the morning. If it were in the tribe that day, it is estimated that it would be directly killed by the king's army. The people of the tribe, not Tep, who look at it as a child, but in the eyes of outsiders, this is an out-and-out fierce beast. At present, the situation of the Gaoshu tribe is generally good. Basically, the infrastructure has not been damaged. It seems that the army of the royal court is still a bit human. Anyway, I know that this is the tribe of the Kabru high priest. It's just that the 4 great alchemists were taken away, and the tribes who followed the 4 great alchemists were also taken away. Most of the grain in the granary was also removed. The ghost knew how many people were sent by the royal court this time. Several large grain silos were emptied. That would allow thousands of people to eat food for 2 years. But at any rate, these guys also left some food for the old, weak, sick and young in the tribe, so that the people who were left in the tribe did not starve to death. But just this, obviously can't quell the growing anger in Shi Xiong's heart. Are these guys robbers? The food and the many materials stored in the warehouse, including the refined salt, cotton cloth, the raw materials for gunpowder, the seeds of various crops. All were removed by the army from the king's court. The more than 300 bison that had been tamed in the tribe, even with the kind of 4-wheeled bullock cart, were all taken away. It is estimated that those things in the warehouses and grain depots were pulled away by these bullock carts. Shi Xiong felt a little bit holding up a rock and hitting himself in the foot. The 2 121mm Valère Fortress guns that were first captured from the French and the 24-pounder guns unloaded from the 4 armed transport ships were originally placed in several key positions of the tribe for defense. Yes, as a result, all the artillery has been taken away, leaving only some gun towers built with reinforced concrete. However, the coal, refined coke, iron ore, and other silly raw materials in the tribe did not move the king's army, but the steel ingots smelted were all taken away. The houses in the tribe, the water wheel erected by the river, and other infrastructures, the king's army did not damage it, and the preservation is still very good. The water wheels on the riverside were still rotating, but the various mechanical equipment connected under the water wheel were evacuated. This is a bunch of robbers. It can be said that the originally prosperous Gaoshu tribe now only has an external shelf, and all the things that are slightly useful inside have been snatched away by those guys. Moreover, according to the Grey Moose, the 300 soldiers who used to defend the tribe were not only taken away by the royal army, but also the 300 blasting bear rifles in their hands were taken away by them. Fortunately, Major Felisa and the others were working in Zioyan Mountain when the accident occurred, so they were escorted to a remote valley by more than a dozen soldiers armed with blasting bear rifles, and escaped the search of the royal army. Moreover, there are more than 20 soldiers at the outer guard post, and they also have weapons in their hands. During the period when Shi Xiong received the news and rushed back, it was these 30 or so warriors who protected the tribe's safety. Eagle Feather, who was a sentinel because of his disability, rushed back to the tribe after the incident, and then he rode a ride to the Dakingshan side, which turned out to be worse than the Gaoshu tribe, because most of the busy people on Dakingshan are strong people and women. As a result, all the people there are taken away. Fortunately, the Dakingshan side is the same as the Gaoshu tribe side. The various infrastructures built with huge human and material resources have not been destroyed. It seems that the people in the royal court want to take over here in the future. But now that I am back, do you still have this chance to take over? Before Stone Bear came back, there were more than 30 warriors and more than 100 old, weak, sick, young, and Major Felisa left in the tribe. However, the performance of Felisa's people was pretty good. It may be because they reached an agreement with Stone Bear. Felisa's gang did not take the opportunity to escape or cause chaos. On the contrary, they also helped the more than 30 warriors to protect the tribe. All in all, this time Wang Ting made an unreasonable move suddenly, causing unhealable pain to the Gaoshu tribe. If they can endure arresting people and snatching everything, but this spring plowing is completely delayed. It is an unforgivable sin. In this age, food is the foundation of everything. Although in the past 2 years, with the help of cattle farming and advanced planting equipment, the Gaoshu tribe has obtained a bumper harvest every year, and the tribe has also accumulated enough food for thousands of people to eat for 2 years. But who has too much food? If there is no such thing, the people in the Gaoshu tribe should be busy with spring plowing. And even Dakingshan must stop and busy with spring plowing. But now, almost all the active people in the Gaoshu tribe have been captured by the royal court's army, and they were taken away by this despicable method. They used the trust of the Gaoshu tribe in the royal court to enter the tribe. Otherwise, even the 300 small soldiers with explosive bear rifles left behind by the Gaoshu tribe would be able to shut out the thousands of royal army. Everyone was taken away. www.wuxiaspa.com. This spring plowing naturally became impossible. People are wrong for a moment, and people are wrong for a year. Shi Xiong understands this truth. The spring plowing of the Gaoshu tribe was completely wiped out because of Wang Ting's stupid actions, which means that hundreds of thousands of caddies or even hundreds of thousands of caddies of summer grains are gone. This sin is absolutely unforgivable. The tragedy of the tribe naturally fell on the eyes of the soldiers of the 1st Regiment, these guys who didn't change their looks when fighting on the battlefield. When they saw all this in front of them, they were heartbroken and don't want them. Therefore, when the sun just came out from the top of the mountain the next day, the first group of soldiers that had been completely repaired had left the Gaoshu tribe and came to Dakingshan to cross the river from the pontoon. They used to be sent out to deal with the enemy, but this time, they are going to face the superior court of their own clan. But what does it matter? If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel. Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 432, Food Delivery. After crossing the Big Bend, the 700 soldiers of the 1st Regiment began to march quickly. This is also the first time these soldiers did so spontaneously against Shi Xiong's orders. Their relatives and friends have been arrested by the Wang Ting. Their fate is uncertain, and no one knows how the Wang Ting gang will treat their relatives and friends. What if those guys are brain dead and kill these people? Since those guys can do the brain damage of arresting tribesmen, who can guarantee that they dare not do more brain damage? Therefore, even if Shi Xiong gave an order to march normally because he was worried about his brother's physical strength, this order was rejected by the 700 brothers collectively for the first time. Of course, they didn't explicitly reject their boss's orders. After all, obeying the orders was deeply embedded in their bones. But they expressed their resistance to this order with a practical action that was not clearly stated, that is, marching in a hurry. In fact, Shi Xiong also understands that it is impossible not to march in a hurry. One is that the brothers are worried about the safety of their loved ones, and the other is that there is not enough food. When the stone bear rushed back in the Alcaran fortress, he did not carry much food, because even the stone bear did not expect that the people of the royal court would scavenge the tribe so cleanly, and the little food left in the tribe was worthless. It's just enough for those old, weak, sick and young. How can he move that little grain? But 700 people, and 700 strong men, how much food do they have to eat in one day? So the food they carried by Shi Xiong soon ran out. The brothers also understand that the sooner you arrive at the royal court, the faster you can solve the food problem. From the High Tree tribe to Monongahela, the seat of the Cherokee's royal court, the straight line distance is more than 400 kilometers, and most of the roads are in the mountains. Although there are roads to walk, even at the speed of a rapid march, at least it will take about 10 days. At noon on the 3rd day after crossing the Big Bend, the soldiers of the 1st Regiment of the Burst Bear Brigade, which were marching rapidly, stopped, and in front of them, a crowd of people appeared. The soldier of the Burst Bear Brigade at this time is like a female leopard that has lost her cub. They dare to kill any animal that dares to provoke her. So, when the 300 musketeers in total raised their blasting bear rifles, the 200 rangers pulled off their strong bows, 100 grenadiers, and 5 mortars. At that moment, the group of people on the other side suddenly rioted. If it hadn't been for Shi Xiong to glance at the binoculars and see the leader of this group clearly, maybe this group would have to fall more than half the next moment. Do you really think that if you stand 300 meters away, the bear rifle in our hands will not be able to hit you? All of them, put down the gun. The enemy should not be the enemy. Shi Xiong's voice rang, and the soldiers of the Bear Burst Brigade, who were just like a furry beast, immediately lowered their muzzle and pulled a full bow. Also slowly restored to its original state. Kiao Laklelu ran over on his horse with a look of horror, and when he came to Shi Xiong, he rolled over and got off his horse. He walked to Shi Xiong and came to a standard military salute. Stone Xiong carried out the military salute for future generations in the Burst Bear Brigade. As long as they are soldiers from the Burst Bear Brigade, they can meet and salute each other. Shi Xiong replied with a stern face, but did not dismount, but looked condescendingly at Zhou Lakrilu and asked, "Why, are you planning to lead people to stop us?" Kiao Lakrilu smiled bitterly. "Boss, you take me too badly, right? What happened in the High Tree tribe? I got the news only 2 days ago. Originally, I was in the tribe to fix it for 2 days and then take it. I asked someone to go to the Chikashi to receive it. After hearing the news, I took someone to rush over. Fortunately, we went fast, otherwise we would miss you." Shi Xiong's face gradually slowed down when he heard Zhuriaklilu's voice. Kiao Lakrilu saw the Guardian Lord's face slowing down, and then continued, "Boss, I don't know what the royal court planned, and I don't know why Chief Junaruska ordered this, but I think this is wrong. But you also know that I can't resist the chief's orders, so I can't send troops to help you. Then, why are you bringing these people here?" Shi Xiong asked coldly. "Since the chief's order cannot be violated, it is the enemy." "Hey, boss, don't worry for now. I'm panicking when you are in a hurry, Kiaulaklulu said with a smile on his face, without the style of a big tribe leader. Shi Xiong frowned and looked at the sky, and gave Kiaulaklulu a look, so he hurriedly said, well, our tribe has also been short of food recently, so I went to the Red River Water tribe to borrow some food. But our food transport team suddenly saw the brothers of the 1st Regiment of the heavily armed Burst Bear Brigade on the road. They were terrified, and even their leader, Jriakriulu, was terrified. After all, they were fully armed and full-bodied, the elite of the Angry Bear Brigade. Even their leader, Karaklilu, was afraid that these elites would misunderstand them, so they ran away with people. Even the food was not taken care of. The more Shi Xiong listened, the stronger the smile on his face. Finally, after Jolakru's finished speaking, Shi Xiong laughed and pointed at his former adjutant and said, you guy. I won't say anything extra, thank you. Jriakriulu waved his hand and said, boss, you don't need to say more if you are polite. I can only do this for your help to you and my brothers. For the rest, I can't help my brothers more. Well, about a day's journey ahead, the old lion from the Red River Shui tribe sent someone to wait for you. They are also pulling food. It is estimated that the car they pulled for food should be broken on the road at this time. The stone bear nodded, and Jolakriulu said, boss, I have to go quickly. This is the main road to the royal court. If people from other tribes see all this, I will have a mouthful. It's hard to say, boss. After you take all your people out, we will drink together. Well, the old lion in the Red River is also very worried about your high spirits. I will withdraw first. What? As he said, Jriakriulu pulled on the reins, and the horse under his hip neighed and ran back with him. After a while, a loud whistle sounded, and the people in front immediately made a panic and began to flee. After a while, the hundreds of people disappeared in the mountains and forests, leaving only a few in the middle of the road. A bullock cart. Stone Xiong was also quite moved in his heart. www.wuxiaspa.com. Kiaulaklulu did this to show his attitude, and the Mad Lion leader of the Red River Water tribe is also preparing to do the same thing. The Red River Water tribe is also a large tribe, and their stationed location is located near the later generations called the New River, but at this time the river is not called the New River. The river is called the Red River Water. Therefore, the tribe of the Wild Lion is also called the Hongshui tribe. When the Explosive Bear Brigade marched eastward, some of the recruits came from the Red River Water tribe. Some time ago, during the West expedition, the Hongshui tribe sent another group of recruits. The leader of this tribe, Mad Lion, is a strong man in his 40s. He has met with Shi Xiong several times. The two have very good tempers. They chat very speculatively every time, and drink speculatively. Now not only is Krakaru secretly helping the 1st Regiment, the old lion is also doing the same thing. Obviously, the leaders of the two large tribes of the Cherokee do not approve of Junaluska's confrontation with Jiao this time. What the Tree tribe did. Chapter 433, Prestigious Name. Kiaulaklulu did not deceive the stone bear. The soldiers of the 1st Regiment saw a group of men pretending to be repairing vehicles near the Red River near noon in the morning of the next day. Just like the performance of the food pull guys of the Crooked Deer's tribe, when these guys saw the menacing first group of soldiers, they all uttered panic shouts. The next moment, these guys seemed to have seen an eagle. The rabbit dispersed with a boom. Of course, around these men, there are some native Indians in different dresses, which are obviously from other tribes. However, these Indians who had not had time to run away, when they saw the fully armed soldiers of the 1st Regiment, not only were they not afraid, but they also greeted the soldiers of the 1st Regiment affectionately. Obviously, these people from other tribes of the Cherokee tribe are familiar with the names of the Burst Bear Brigade or the Expeditionary Army. The Explosive Bear Brigade successively conquered the Korean Powhatan tribes, which made these people worship the Explosive Bear Brigade. Of course Shi Xiong couldn't attack these people, although they are not of the same tribe. They belong to the Cherokee tribe, so they can be regarded as compatriots. The old lion of the Mad Lion was not present. After all, this is the most important pass in the south of Monongahela. The Red River tribe of the Mad Lion is stationed here. If he publicly appears in this scene, If he is told by others, it must be very bad. Haha, the guys from the Red River tribe don't look good. These are the expeditionary soldiers of our tribe. What are they running? Are you worried that the brothers of the expeditionary army will kill them? An onlooker Indian-led, he said in a disdainful tone. It was obvious that the man with a sense of justice felt a bit disgusted by the behavior of the guys from the Red River Shui tribe just now. Yeah, this is the most powerful warrior of our tribe. Don't their Red River Shui tribe also have some brothers to join the expeditionary army? Then what else are they running? Hey, Hong Shui used to be the top-ranked tribe of our tribe, but they have been guarding the south for the royal court over the years. They haven't fought for many years. It is estimated that the guys in Hong Shui have not had the courage they had back then. I saw the leader of the Mad Lion in the king's court last year. He is really an amazing man. Why are his soldiers so bears? Hey, look, isn't that big man the leader of the expeditionary army, the legendary Kabu guardian of Priest Lu? Don't say it. It seems that it is really the guardian. Yes, it is the guardian who conquered the Crees and the Pointons for our tribe, and now leads the expedition to attack the Chicashes in the west. Why did he come here? No, this expeditionary army is too great. Are the Carry people in the south so powerful? Our tribes were a little bit out of breath, but last spring, our expeditionary army brothers went out on an expedition, and only more than 2,000 people defeated it. The powerful Cree people. Now the Cree people have become vassals of our tribe. Who doesn't know this? At the end of summer and early autumn last year, the expeditionary army fought the Pointons. Didn't they also beat all the guys who only knew to hide? There was no chief of the Pointons. I have escaped the fate of being caught. Now I heard that the chief of the Pointon and the chief of the Cree are now in our royal court. Oh, this expeditionary army is powerful, but now it only recruits soldiers from a few large tribes, not to mention the Crooked Deer's tribe of Kara Krilu, and the Red River tribe of the Mad Lion also had many fighters recruited into the expeditionary army last year. There are also the 4 guardian tribes of the royal court. When will the expeditionary army come to our tribe to recruit soldiers? I will be the first to sign up. Haha, just like you. It's strange if the expeditionary army can take you in. The expeditionary army has established a reputation in the past 2 years, so that although the expeditionary army has been renamed the Explosive Bear Brigade, there are still many Cherokees who can't change their words and still call the Explosive Bear Brigade the expeditionary army. Listening to the voices of the people from other tribes around them, and looking at the fanatical expressions on their faces, Shi Xiong knew that the expeditionary army called the Burst Bear Brigade had already broken out of the Cherokee tribe. Fame. It's just that these things don't the Chief Junaruskin know? Why did he make such a move? Does the Bighorn Sheep's previous reminder really fall on his own head? Shi Xiong shook his head slightly, and showed a smiling face as he walked to greet the clansmen onlookers around him. The same goes for the brothers in the first group. Seeing the legendary expeditionary soldiers so amiable, these 20 or 30 onlookers from different tribes were all excited and don't want it. This is the legendary expeditionary army. If you can see them with your own eyes, you will be able to play for half your life after returning to the tribe. The people of the Mad Lion left 4 carts, and all the carts left were food. However, there are only 2 carts of grains, and the other 2 carts are all slaughtered and cut meats. Shi Xiong did not see the Mad Lion, but he understood why the Mad Lion dared not show up. After all, this is an important transportation hub from the central and southern tribes to the royal court of the tribe. Almost all people from the tribes in the southwest, due south and southeast need to go north through here before entering the area under the jurisdiction of the royal court. To put it bluntly, there are many people here, not as remote as the place where Kara Klilu sent food yesterday. There are people from the north and south here every day. If they are shown here, the Mad Lion, who has always been known for his bravery, is here. If it reaches the ears of the caring people, Mad Lion will really be inexplicable. Shi Xiong didn't want to hurt the bold old lion. Since they have delivered food and meat www.wuxiaspot.com. It shows that they have this hard. Pulling these 4 carts, plus the carts of grain sent by Jor Creeley yesterday, The 700 soldiers of the 1st Regiment successfully crossed the stone bridge erected on the Red River. This is the only stone bridge on the Red River. It is said that it is a bridge, but it is actually a few thick stone piers built with rock blocks, on which a few thick slabs are built. Fortunately, the bridge is strong enough. After everyone crossed the bridge, they started cooking on the spot. From here to reach the palace, there are still 4 or 5 days at most. Because of the shortage of food and the rapid march, the soldiers' physical strength was consumed greatly. Now that there is food to eat, it should be well groomed. However, the soldiers of the 1st Regiment did not stay here too much. In any case, the old lion took care of the sight. Shi Xiong didn't want the old lion to be embarrassed, so after eating lunch, he ordered the march to continue. It wasn't until he got out of the sight of the Red River Water Tribe that renovations began. In the morning 5 days later, the mouth of the valley south of Monongahela was already in sight. Chapter 434, Decapitation. Boss, there are a large number of royal soldiers at the mouth of the valley in front. They firmly control the valley mouth area of the river valley, and there are many royal soldiers on the mountains on both sides of the valley. They are very tightly guarded. My men and I couldn't get close to them, we could only observe from a distance. However, it is estimated that the number of royal soldiers guarding the valley mouth of the river valley is at least 6,000, Lynx said, riding a horse, with a somewhat uneven breath. The bobcat's words made Shi Xiong's brows frown. He thought that Wang Ting would be prepared, but he didn't expect that Wang Ting would arrange so many soldiers to guard himself. With Junaruska's character, he caught the people of the Gaoshu tribe, and he would definitely think that he would take the troops to save people, so he made such an arrangement is understandable. However, it seems that I have no choice but to take Wang Ting's arrangement. When the Cherokee people lived in the Great Lakes area, the royal court was on a flat plain without any geographical advantage. As a result, with the joint efforts of the Iroquois and the Delaware, the royal court was easily breached. Later, when the Cherokee moved south to choose the residents of the king's court, they paid special attention to this point. After searching for a long time, they found such a unique river valley plain in the Appalachian Mountains. This valley plain, covering an area of about 15 or 6 square kilometers, is surrounded by mountains. The terrain in the valley is very flat, but all around are steep peaks with an altitude of close to 1,000 meters. It is impossible for a large-scale enemy to climb these steep peaks. A river flows out from the mountains on the west, enters this plain, and then divides into 2 rivers in the plain. One continues to the east, the other turns to the south. In this way, 3 river valleys were opened in the mountains surrounding this plain, and these 3 river valleys were the only passages in and out of Monongahela. Especially because the widths of these 3 rivers are not large, so these 3 river valleys are very dangerous. The widest of the 3 river valleys is just over 300 meters wide, while the narrowest one is only over 100 meters wide and can only allow small groups of people to enter and exit. Just like the river valley south of Monongahela, it is a river valley with a width of more than 200 meters and mountains with a height of several hundred meters on both sides. Just put a team at the mouth of the valley and then the peaks on both sides of the valley, with 2 more teams placed halfway up the mountain. The mouth of the valley is almost impenetrable. The so-called one man who is in charge of 1 man and 1 man is not open, describes this kind of terrain. Of course, in terms of the current strength of the Burst Bear Brigade, even if Wang Ting placed more than 6,000 people at the mouth of the valley to stop him, Shi Xiong could not help it. It is not an exaggeration to say that the 555 mortars and 100 grenades in Shi Xiong's hands are enough to blow up these royal soldiers. But the problem is that Shi Xiong can't get it off. If Junaruska was standing in front of him, then Stone Bear would definitely order the gun to fire, first to blow up the culprit. But these royal warriors are innocent, they have no hatred with Gaoshu tribe or Stone Bear. And Shi Xiong knew very well that these royal court fighters were all ordered to do this. If it weren't for Junaruska's order, based on the reputation of the Burst Bear Brigade in the past 2 years, these royal soldiers would never stop them. If the entire Cherokee tribe is now an invincible sharp arrow, then the Burst Bear Brigade is the sharpest arrow of this arrow. Now how many tribal warriors are crying and clamoring to join the Burst Bear Brigade? Whether it is an ordinary tribe, the Red City Alliance, or even the 4 guardian tribes of the royal court, almost all warriors have joined the Burst Bear Brigade. Bear travel is the highest goal of life. The men of these tribes all admire the explosive Bear Brigade very much. To paraphrase later generations, they are innocent. Shi Xiong is very clear about this. So, if you let Stone Bear order to attack these fighters, Stone Bear really can't do it. Although it is said that for the clansmen of the Gaoshu tribe and the Green Skylark, Stone Bear dared to fight against the whole world, but he really couldn't attack these innocent men. Can I go over and talk to the leaders of these warriors? Shi Xiong frowned for a long time before asking slowly. The bobcat, who had been relieved, immediately shook his head and said, I advise you not to do this. At the beginning, I also planned to send 2 soldiers to talk with these soldiers guarding the valley mouth, but they didn't let us negotiate at all. Chances are, the 2 of my men just approached them, and before they could speak, the rain of arrows fell. If the 2 soldiers were running fast, maybe they would have stayed there. After a pause, the lynx said seriously, Xiong, you must never go to negotiate. Not only me, but also Little Skylark and your uncle who are imprisoned in the royal court will not let you go. Obviously, the bobcat's remarks were not made as an officer of the Chijun of the Burst Bear Brigade, but as an elder of the Long-Hair Cattle tribe. Seeing Shi Xiong's distressed face, the lynx thought for a while and said, Dragon Bear, I know you can't bear to attack these soldiers of the royal court, so you feel a little helpless with the situation in front of you. But just now you were observing the situation in the valley. At that time, I stood on a high place and looked at the surrounding situation, but I had a preliminary idea in my mind. Uncle, Bobcat, you can speak up if you have something. Shi Xiong suddenly raised his head, and said with a look of expectation on his face. Great Bear, you also know the terrain of Monongahela. The mountains surround the valley and plains. Only the 3 river valleys in the west, south, and east can enter and leave Monongahela. Now the southern valley has been blocked by royal soldiers. Then why don't we think about it from another direction? The bobcat's words made Shi Xiong's eyes light up. When I was standing on a high place and observing just now www.wuxiaspot.com, I found that there seems to be a valley to the west of the mountain to the west, and this mountain is separated from our current position. So I thought, if we the large troops of the United States have been stationed here, and then sent a small group of more than 10 troops along the valley to the north, and they will definitely reach the river in the Monongahela Valley. As long as we can find the river, it is possible to make a raft, take advantage of the night to go down the river, and enter Monongahela. As long as you enter Monongahela, even if we are few people, we can use the beheading plan. Shi Xiong nodded without hesitation and said, Uncle Bobcat, this plan is very good. This is the Appalachian Mountains, the valleys are vertical and horizontal, and the concealment is very good. Our large troops stay here and no one is allowed to approach. If anyone enters within 500 meters, he will directly use the bullet to warn the bombing, so that no one can figure out where I am going. Then I can take the opportunity to sneak into Monon along the route you said with more than a dozen people. Jahira, implement decapitation tactics. Lynx said with certainty, just do it. But Great Bear, I must go with you. I want to find the way ahead for you. P.S. Bow to thank Lonely as Night for 2 consecutive million rewards and 3 consecutive 2,000 rewards. Loneliness is also an old brother, since Lao Mo's earliest invincible tank has always supported Lao Mo. But Lao Mo hasn't saved the manuscript now. Try harder today, and add more for the lonely brother tomorrow. Chapter 435, Sneak In. Before carrying out this task, Shi Xiong took a few people on horseback to try to see if he could talk to the leaders of the royal warriors who defended the valley mouth of the river valley. As a result, his situation was the same as that of the bobcats. Ignoring who he was, people would not even let you approach the garrison. When someone came, the soldier on the side of the mountain suddenly shot down the bow and arrow in his hand. Of course, instead of shooting at people, they shot in front. Obviously, they are warning. This was what the royal court warrior did, and Shi Xiong immediately understood Junaluska's thoughts. Don't you want to rescue your people? I won't let you save. I know that with the strength of your explosive bear brigade, it is not difficult to break Monongahela, but I will put 6,000 royal soldiers here to prevent you from entering Monongahela. Do you really dare to kill these fellow warriors, dead? If you want to talk, I won't give you a chance at all. I just block these people here. What can you do? Do you dare to kill these fellow fighters with the weapon in your hand? If you dare to do this, then you are a traitor. Do you dare to do this? Do your soldiers dare to do it? Traitor, this is no ordinary charge. You can afford it. Can your soldiers afford it? This is an upright plan. That Junaluska sits firmly on the Diotai, waiting for you Shi Xiong to take the initiative to make a mistake. As long as you can't get in, all your plans are for nothing. If you have the ability, you can kill all the warriors stuck in Taniguchi before you come in again. Naturally, Shi Xiong couldn't do this, so executing the beheading plan became the only way out. According to the method discussed before, the 700 soldiers of the 1st Regiment were stationed in place. Of course, the guard post would be released for at least 2 kilometers. The original plan was to lead a 55 mortar squad and 5 grenadier detours from the valley west of Monongahela into the royal court, but then Shi Xiong thought about it and decided not to do it. It was him. Infiltrate the royal court with the bobcats. There is no difference between 2 people and 10 people in this beheading plan. Although the power of the 55 mortar is great, and the power of the grenadier is not small, this kind of weapon needs to be scaled to be effective. Moreover, what is being executed is a secretly sneaked beheading plan. This kind of powerful weapon has no use at all. Taking a step back, once this weapon is really used, it means that the secret sneak is exposed. Once a large number of soldiers in the royal court really appeared, it would be of little help with a 55 mortar and a few grenades. Therefore, bringing a few more people in the past has no effect at all. On the contrary, with Shi Xiong's force, he can reach more than a dozen people alone, and he can sneak in secretly by himself, but the effect will be better. After careful consideration, Shi Xiong decided to take the bobcats around the road to execute the secret infiltration beheading plan. Kuema brought all the people here to attract Wang Ting's attention, but also implemented the non-talking policy. Aren't you not talking about it? Let's not talk about it, let's just waste it, and give the boss time to sneak in. With everything set up, Shi Xiong and Kuema were fully armed, riding their horses, and quietly left the station with the other 2 soldiers. The scouts of the 1st Regiment have all been scattered, and it can be ensured that there are no royal scouts around. But even so, the 2 fathers, Stone Bear and Bobcat, are still very careful to return back the same way. It is not a good choice to climb the mountain to the west directly. After all, the mountain is too steep, and there is a river between the station and the mountain. Rather than overturning the mountain, it is better to go back on the same road. After about 10 kilometers to the south, follow a detour to the west and over the mountain. After walking more than 10 kilometers south, the 4 people came to the river valley. Unlike this valley that can lead directly to Monongahela, there are no roads on both sides of this valley to the northwest, so riding a horse is basically impossible to go west from here. The 2 warriors brought by the Stone Bear are responsible for bringing the mounts of the Stone Bear and the Lynx back to the station. After handing the mounts of Huofeng and Lynx to the 2 fighters, they plunge into the river valley head-on and headed northwest. This valley is much narrower than the valley where the 1st Regiment is stationed, and there is no road at all. There are virgin forests everywhere, and big trees tens of meters high can be seen everywhere. In this kind of river valley, no enemy can pass through even if no one guards it. However, this kind of valley is basically not difficult for Stone Bear and Lynx, so the 2 of them passed this 4-kilometer-long valley safely in less than 3 hours. Sure enough, after passing through this section of the valley in front immediately became much wider. Although it was still impossible to ride horses, it was already much easier to walk than the section of river valley just now. This section of the river valley runs north-south, and no one around can see it, only the sounds of various beasts and birds that sound from time to time. The 2 went north along the river valley, and when night fell, They came to a wide river valley plain. There were faint fire lights and voices from the front, and it was clear that there were a large number of people standing in front. This situation frowned both of them. It took a lot of effort to climb halfway up the mountain, and the two people looked through their binoculars and discovered that a large number of wooden houses appeared in the wide river valley plain in the distance. One of the huge red tents is particularly eye-catching. In this wooden house, "This is the headquarters of the Red City Alliance of our tribe," Shi Xiong said with certainty. www.wuxiaspot.com. He had long known that the headquarters of the Red City Alliance was stationed in a valley west of the royal court, while the White City Alliance was in a river valley east of the king's court. However, Stone Bear had never been to the Red City Alliance. He just knew something about the Red City Alliance when he chatted with Joe Laclilu. The Red City Alliance is an organization dedicated to warfare by the Cherokee tribe. When Laclilu served as the second commander of the expeditionary force, he was also the head of the Red City Alliance. Of course, he was familiar with the Red City Alliance. The bright red big tent in the distance is no different from the big tent of the Red City Alliance headquarters that Joe Laclilu once said, so Stone Bear concluded that this river valley plain is the headquarters of the Red City Alliance. With so many people, how can we find the river quietly and go down? The bobcat frowned and asked. It's easy. If we don't go down, we will walk on the mountain. Well, at our height, walking northward, we can always find the river leading to Monongahela. As long as we find the river, we can go down halfway down the mountain, and then take advantage of the night to ride a cowhide raft down the river to ensure that no one finds us, Shi Xiong said confidently. Chapter 436, Night Crossing. After acquiring this body in this life, Shi Xiong found that his sense of direction had become particularly sensitive. This is worthy of the sentence, "When God closes one door for you, He will inevitably open another window for you." The silly brain is not good, but God gave him an enviable and even frightening body and an excellent sense of direction. Don't underestimate this sense of direction. In this new world of North America, having an excellent sense of direction means that you can enter the wilderness or mountains without getting lost. This is a necessary quality for a good hunter. The Stone Bear now has exactly this quality, and the lynx beside him also has this quality. Therefore, even if two people shuttle through the dense forest in the mountains in the dim evening, they can still keep their direction well. It took about an hour before the Stone Bear and the lynx came to a cliff just after night fell. You can't see anything in the dark below, but you can clearly hear the sound of flowing water hitting the rock wall, and the sound is loud. Obviously, under this cliff is a big river with a lot of flow. And at the foot of the mountain to the west, you can see a lot of bright bonfires, which also means that a large number of people are stationed at the mouth of the valley below the cliff. Great Bear, is this river the one leading to Monongahela? Bobcat asked in a low voice. In fact, he didn't need to be so careful. It was far from the bonfire at the foot of the mountain. Even if he called out loudly, his voice would be obscured by the huge sound of running water below. It should be this river. According to the distance we walked and the direction of the river, it is very likely that the river will flow eastward into Monongahela. Go, Uncle Lynx, let's go down. Don't you know if you try it? Both of them are actionists, and they will act immediately after making a decision. Shi Xiong found a big tree that was thick enough, then took down the rope on his back, and fastened one end of it to the root of the big tree, and then put the rope on the rope, thrown into the cliff. I'm going down first. I don't know the height of the cliff, so I can't tell whether the rope can reach the bottom of the cliff. Uncle Bobcat, you pay attention to the rope. Once the rope is pulled 4 times in a row, it means I am at the end. 4 times. If I respond to 4 more pulls, then you can go down the rope. If I don't pull the rope, you don't want to come down for the time being. I'll follow the rope and climb up again. At this time, the lynx knew that it was not when he was arguing with the Stone Bear. He was a must for climbing, but that didn't mean that he could climb up from the bottom along this long rope. That required extremely strong upper body strength. In case this 200 meters long rope can't reach the end, the bobcats can be sure that they can climb up the rope again. If it is hung in the air, it will be completely lively. Shi Xiong was not vague. He wrapped a few layers of cloth on his hands and yanked the rope vigorously. After feeling that the rope was particularly strong, he grabbed the rope with both hands and began to descend. After a while, his figure disappeared in the darkness below. After about a few minutes, the bobcat felt that the rope passed 4 regular pulls, so he immediately pulled the rope 4 times in a rhythm according to the previous agreement. After feeling the rope in his hand tugged 4 more times, the bobcat with a smile on his face grabbed the rope with both hands and began to descend. Lynx estimated that he had fallen more than 100 meters, and both his arms felt a little sore, and he stepped on the ground under his feet. Then, he felt his body was grabbed by a pair of powerful arms. "Uncle Lynx, the bottom is not to the bottom, but the bottom is a not steep hill. We should be able to get to the bottom by pulling the rope." The stone bear's voice was much louder, but it was completely covered by the louder sound of water. Presumably the river below is not far away. It took the two of them about 5 or 6 minutes to reach the bottom of this not steep hillside, and a faintly visible river appeared in front of them. "There is a high possibility that this river will lead to Monongahela," Lynx said with certainty. Here, his excellent sense of direction also came into play. The direction of the river can already be determined here, and there is no road on the south bank of the river, where Shi Xiong and the others are standing. Although it was impossible to see if there was a road on the other side of the river because of the darkness, Shi Xiong knew that the river that flows into Monongahela from the west had a road on the north bank, but there was indeed no road on the south bank. The two began to untie the skins from their backs. Since the plan is to drift down the river at night, the best boat is undoubtedly the cowhide draft. The stone bear once went to the Tibetan area to play once before crossing. In the Yarlung-Zangbo River, he once saw the local Tibetans crossing the river with a cowhide draft filled with forage. The cowhide drafts used by Tibetans are much smaller than the large cowhide drafts used on the Yellow River. There are only 4 skins under a raft, and some rafts even only have 2. Naturally, this kind of raft can't carry too many things or people, but it is very stable, and because the skin is not inflated but filled with some grass material, it is not afraid that the raft will be damaged by hitting the reef with the rapids. In fact, more than 70 years ago, before the stone bear crossed, many large rafts were transported on the Yellow River in the Lanzhou section of the Yellow River, and there was a well-known saying in the local area: sheepskin rafts are used as warships. Potato eggs are boiled in a casserole. This shows that this kind of raft is a very safe water transportation tool. The sheepskin rafts are actually similar to the cowhide rafts used by Shi Xiong. I'm reading www.hukanshu.com. is just that the rafts carried by Shi Xiong and Lynx are much smaller, with only 4 skins. Each the size of the bag is about the same as a travel bag, and it weighs only 7 or 8 catties. The bobcat carried 2 of them, and the stone bear carried 2 of them. Untie these 4 skin sacks, find a few thicker branches, and tie them together with the skin sacks. Then you can go into the water. Although the sky was dark, the stone bear and the bobcat couldn't help but survive. It didn't take long for the two to find a suitable branch, and then quickly tied a raft. Of course, before going into the water, the two of them each held a longer and thicker branch in their hands, with the thickness of their arms. These 2 branches are used as poles. After all, it is going down the river. Although the raft is not afraid of hitting, you can't just watch the raft hit the rock, so the necessary brace is still necessary. The stone bear got into the water, and the water on the shore did not pass his thighs, but he stood steady and put the assembled raft into the water with both hands. After the bobcat got on the raft, he turned over, up the raft, then with a support pole, the raft left the shore and was pushed by the swift river water to quickly drift downstream. Chapter 437, Tapping. The river is not as turbulent as expected, and the river is not as narrow as expected. The stone bear holding the pole in his hand just adjusts the angle of the kayak slightly at intervals. The small kayak can carry 2 people down the river safely. This section of the river is all in the valley, and there should be steep cliffs on both sides, so the echo of the river is very loud. However, in the process of downstream, Shi Xiong saw more than a dozen bonfires in the north. Obviously, the judgment just now was not wrong. There is indeed a road on the north bank of the river. Those bonfires should be guard posts set up on the north bank of this river. However, The light from the bonfire can't shine into the river, and there is no need to illuminate the entire river. After all, there are still a large number of soldiers stationed at the mouth of the river valley upstream of the river. The brightness of the bonfire there is enough to ensure that no one can go down the river. It's just that they might not have thought that the two people, the stone bear and the lynx, didn't enter the river channel from outside the river valley. They slipped into the river channel from the cliff in the middle of the river valley along the rope. Therefore, the calf leather raft on which Stone Bear and Lynx rode was not discovered by anyone in the 4 or 5 kilometers long valley river. Because of the constraints of the terrain, the flow rate of the river in this section of the valley is not slow, but when the river channel flows out of the valley, it widens rapidly, and the speed of the water flow also quickly decreases. Out of this section of the valley, Stone Bear and Lynx saw the huge Monongahela Valley Plain. In this 15.6 square kilometer valley and plain, dots of bonfires can be seen everywhere. Those are the royal court and the 4 guarding tribes who are living in Monongahela. This place has entered the core area of the Cherokee tribe. Compared with the strict external defense, there are almost no sentinels and guards here. After all, this place is already a real heart, and large-scale enemies are simply impossible to be entered here without disturbing anyone. Even if a small group of enemies can sneak in, there are still 4 guardian tribes with nearly 10,000 people living here. With just a horn, the warriors of the 4 guarding tribes can trample small groups of enemies into mud. The Cherokee's royal tent is located on the south side of the river. It is also the brightest place in Monongahela. If you are far away, you can see the brightly lit place and the huge king. The court account. When the Stone Bear and the Lynx were several hundred meters away from the king's tent, they propped the raft to the shore, and then the 2 of them landed ashore. As for the raft, they did not recycle it back. One is that the raft is no longer useful, and the other is that it is obviously not appropriate to take that thing to move. So the 2 let the raft drift down the river. The 2 men hunkered down along the edge of the river and quickly approached the king's tent, and it didn't take long for them to reach a place less than 20 meters away from the king's tent. Here, with the help of the light revealed from the big tent and the 2 huge bonfires burning at the south of the big tent, that is, the 2 huge bonfires burning at the door of the big tent, the 2 of them have been able to clearly see the situation around the big tent. Perhaps no one would have thought that someone would come in here, so the defense around the great tent was not so tight, except for the group of about 10 soldiers standing at the gate of the big tent. No one was guarding the sides and back of the big tent. Shi Xiong made a gesture to the lynx. The lynx nodded and lay down on the edge of the river. Of course, he also took out 4 or 5 round, black things from the leather bag he carried with him, one by one, placed in front of him. These black, round things are not the clay pot grenade carried by the Burst Bear Brigade soldiers. The Stone Bear crossed the river embankment lightly, and the cat walked close to the big tent with his waist like a huge wild cat. Squatting outside the big tent, Shi Xiong drew a dagger that was more than a foot long with a cold light from the scabbard tied to the outside of his calf. It is a bit inappropriate to say that it is a dagger, because the size and shape of this knife are more like the famous Mad Dog tactical assault knife of later generations. When a friend of Shi Xiong in the previous life traveled abroad, he once mailed back a fake Mad Dog tactical assault knife to Shi Xiong. Although it is an imitation, Shi Xiong can't put it down. After the soul penetrated into this world, Shi Xiong himself created a knife that looked exactly like a Mad Dog tactical assault knife, and wore it with him. Although this knife is not as easy to use as the real Mad Dog tactical assault knife, and even the imitation knife, it is definitely a top tactical knife in this era. Of course, there is no special tactical knife in this era, and even the term tactical knife has never appeared, but this knife is indeed a good knife without compromise. The sharp blade easily cut open the big tent sewn together with several layers of thick cowhide, and opened a small hole behind the big tent, and the sound inside the big tent suddenly came out. There should be an event such as a dinner party in the great tent of the king's court, which is very lively, but this does not prevent Shi Xiong from hearing the conversations of several important people inside. Great axe, horizontal sword, how is the situation at the valley mouth of the southern river valley? Can you make sure that the Great Bear will not enter Monongahela? This voice Shi Xiong is very familiar. It is Junaruska's voice. And Shi Xiong also knew who this so-called giant axe and horizontal sword were. The great axe is the leader of the 4 great axe tribes of the Cherokee tribe, and the cross sword is the leader of the most powerful of the 4 guardian tribes of the Cherokee tribe. Both of them are Junaruska, Shi Xiong's brother. Shi Xiong has seen them before. The 4 guardian tribes of the Cherokee royal court are the horizontal sword, blood arrow, bone spear, and giant axe. The leader of the bone spear tribe, the bone spear, is now in the blasting bear brigade, and some of the elite soldiers of the bone spear tribe are also soldiers of the blasting bear brigade. The leader of the blood arrow tribe, blood arrow www.wuxiaspad.com has now succeeded Jolakli Lu as the leader of the Red City Alliance. Chief, don't worry about that. As long as the Great Bear doesn't attack our royal court fighters frantically, then they can't get through Taniguchi. This somewhat sharp voice was made by Hang Dao. Ha 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 ha. Junaruska's laughter rang out. The Great Bear threatens the royal court too much, and his blasting bear brigade develops too fast. If they continue to develop like this, the royal court of the tribe will also be annexed by the big man. This is the royal court of the Cherokee tribe, and the royal court cannot allow uncontrolled powerful force to appear. After a pause, Junaruska's voice sounded again. I tested the Great Bear twice a year ago. Not only did he not obey my orders, but he also interrupted Diamurka's legs. This is clearly I already have the meaning of rebellion. I admit that the Burst Bear Brigade is very powerful, but what about it? Now everyone in the Gaoshu tribe is in my hands. As long as the big man dares not listen to my orders, his tribes I can't save my life. The chief's strategy is really wonderful. After the Great Bear has been boiled for a while, don't worry that the guy has not obediently handed over the command of the Burst Bear Brigade. Hang Dao's voice sounded again. Chapter 438, Slap in the Face. Although he had already guessed about Wang Ting's unreasonable shot this time, when Shi Xiong heard these words in person, he was so angry that he almost tore the big tent, and then went in and kicked these guys one by one. I'll kick the ground. Too shameless. Okay, I have seen a lot of shameless people in my previous life and this life, but I have never seen such shameless people. Is this his sister still a human? I worked so hard to form a blasting bear brigade for you Junaruska to fight the world, but you turned out to be good. Not only did you not give support, but you also did this kind of unsightly thing. Lao Tzu has already knocked down all the surrounding tribes that are threatening to the tribes, and finally erected the ladders, and you can see the magnificent scenery outside the wall, but you are good. You can lift the ladders all at once. I withdrew it to Lao Tzu, and almost broke Lao Tzu's old waist. Chief, the high priest Bakarzu seems to have an opinion on this order of yours, especially since our people have also captured the high priest Kabru. That old guy seems even more reluctant. The blood arrow was a little bit more reluctant. The gloomy voice sounded again. HMPH. Don't worry about that old guy. I remember that the Red Crow sacrifice of the Red City Alliance is a very obedient person. They have not served as high priests of the tribe for more than 200 years. Is it true that they have the same prestige in the tribe? Now the Kabru high priest can only affect the place where their tribe is located. It's a small place. As far as our tribe is concerned, the influence of the high priest Kabru is far less than before. So, don't worry. After a pause, Junaruska's voice suddenly lowered. It's a big deal. It's just a fire. There was a moment of silence in the big tent, but then there was a burst of uncontrollable laughter. Although these words made Shi Xiong almost broken again and killed these people, he still managed to endure it. After all, he had heard some information from these words, and the information also comforted him. Apart from other things, at least the high priest of Bakaruzul seemed to disagree with Junaruska's actions. This is obviously very good news. Chief, I think the guy with the bone spear seems to have some other thoughts, as well as Jolakriulu and the old lion. I am worried. Another voice sounded, and Shi Xiong remembered this voice. It is the giant axe, the leader of the giant axe tribe. The 4 guardian tribes of the Cherokee royal court are named after the 4 weapons of knife, arrow, spear, and axe, which are also the 4 most commonly used weapons by Cherokee warriors. Of course, Before the stone bear came, whether it was a sword or a spear and axe, they were all made of bone or stone. Even if the Cherokee and the British are very close, there are few iron tools. Don't worry about the bone spear. If that guy doesn't have any other thoughts, it's okay. If he really has it, it's a big deal to change the guardian tribe of the royal court. As for Jorikuru and the old lion, HMPH, don't worry about them for the time being. I don't believe those two guys dare not listen to Wang Ting's orders. What Junaruska said seemed very domineering, but Shi Xiong heard some guilty conscience inside. Hang Dao asked again, Master Chief, what about the people of the Kabru High Priest's tribe? There are more than 3,000 people. Just raising them like this, our tribe doesn't have enough food. Why, not enough? Didn't you bring all their food back when you went to the High Tree tribe? The food alone will be enough for you to eat till the end of the year, right? Junaruska's tone was a little unhappy. Those people can't move for the time being. After the Great Bear is eliminated, these people will still do things for the royal court. Without those people, can your people make steel or make salt? Not to mention making wine and making cigarettes. There is something wrong. The four Vasikas must be taken care of. I heard that many things were caused by these four Vasikas. But, Chief, there is also a British soldier. It is said that that guy developed the first musket of the Gaoshu tribe, and that guy is making a lot of noise now. Noisy? Go back and tell him that if he is noisy again, tie him a sinking river. Junaluska said sharply. There can be no trouble at this time. The Great Bear is in the southern valley. Who know what he plans to do? Yeah, Lord Chief, we are also very worried. If that guy goes crazy and wants to rush in regardless, our people can't stop their weapons. Last year, the 20,000 Cree army was killed. More than 2,000 of them fell apart in one breath. In case the Great Bear goes crazy, don't worry about this. Hang Dao. Tomorrow I will pull the High Priest Kabru and the woman with the belly of the Great Bear to the mouth of the river valley and tie it up in an obvious place. Well, it seems that it is called Jiao. The bull is still the uncle of the Great Bear. Tie them together. I don't believe that these few people are there. That Great Bear dares to go crazy. That woman carries the little cub of his Great Bear in his belly. I don't believe that he is willing to do it! The chief is brilliant. A flattering sound rang. The gloomy voice of the Blood Arrow rang again. Chief, the lady of the Great Bear is beautiful. He is such a stupid big head. How can he find such a beautiful lady? The giant axe said in a ridiculous tone. Why, Blood Arrow, you are tempted again. If you are tempted to accept the mother-in-law, when this matter is over, the baby born by the mother-in-law will call you a dad in the future. Junaluska's voice sounded again. I said Blood Arrow. www.wuxiasput.com. You can't this lady-in-law with me. I plan to take this lady-in-law in my hands. Oh, Chief, since you also like that woman, then I won't have that kind of thought. But then Chief, you have to get me more good drinks. The laughter sounded again. But before the laughter stopped, they heard a hiss sound. The next moment, Hang Dao and the others were horrified to discover that a tall figure suddenly appeared behind Chief Junaruska. At the next moment, Chief Junaruska was sitting on the stone chair and was lifted up by the tall figure holding the back of his neck with one hand. Oh. Who is so bold? Unsuspecting Junaluska was taken aback by this, and then roared. But the next moment, Junaruska's body turned around, and a big face he never expected appeared in front of him. You dare to say those messy things, I will kill you. Accompanied by these words, there was a loud slap in the face. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 439, Break. The foul language of these guys just now really made Shi Xiong angry. If these guys said anything else, Shi Xiong could hold back, but it happened that some of them went to the Green Skylark. It was really Anne who could bear it, but the uncle could not bear it. So Shi Xiong pulled open the king's big tent, which had been cut open, and got in. and the place he got in happened to be behind Junaluska, and the result was Junaluska's tragedy. Fortunately, Shi Xiong can still know the power to control himself. Otherwise, in terms of his power, if he really slaps it with all his strength, it is estimated that Junaluska has either a skull fracture or his neck was directly broken by the slap. But even with the slap, Junaluska's face immediately became extremely exciting. Stone Bear's palm is big. He slapped Junaluska's face with his slap, and half of Junaluska's face was smeared by Stone Bear's big slap. Along with this slap, Junaluska spouted a mouthful of blood, which was mixed with more than a dozen white particles. Needless to say, half of the teeth in Junaluska's mouth were swept away by this slap. Then when the Stone Bear's palm left Junaluska's face, Hengao and all of them were horrified to find that the half of their chief's face was like blowing a balloon. Well, if they knew what it was if you blow the balloon. Anyway, it swells up at a speed visible to the naked eye. And it's not just swollen, the color is also unbearable to look at it. The blue is red, the red is purple, and the purple is mixed with some black spots. In 10 seconds, Junaluska's half of his face became a pig's head. It was a pig's head, and it was even younger than the second brother. Well, the same sentence, if they know who the second brother is. Anyway, the horizontal sword and the giant axe are stupid. The big man in front of them gave them too much psychological shadow area. When the big man challenged the god exemption here, both of them witnessed it with their own eyes, and they both got on it. The result was maimed by this big man. Now this big man suddenly appeared here with a full of murderous aura, and as soon as he appeared, he had beaten his chieftain into this. The horizontal sword and the giant axe can now stand firmly without peeing on his pants, which is already very good. Don't look at the various bragging in the big tent just now, all sorts of belittling this strong bear, but when the Stone Bear appeared in front of them, they immediately withered. As for the blood arrow, after a moment of stunned, there was an unquestionable dry howl in his mouth, and then the Gaisayazi ran to the door of the big tent. As a result, within 2 steps, the horizontal knife and the giant axe saw that the big man picked up the heavy stone cup that had been placed on the stone table next to the chieftain, and put it in his hand, and then suddenly he threw the stone cup out. Shi Bai made a low woo sound in the air, and instantly stepped over a space of more than 10 meters, accurately hitting the back of the blood arrow who wanted to escape. Whether it was a horizontal sword or a giant axe, they dared to swear to the supreme sun god. At that moment, they really heard a clear gappa sound, which should be the sound of the skull of the blood arrow being smashed. As for the blood arrow, it was like a wooden stake. He didn't even hum, his head stuck on the ground of the king's court. As for the big man, he spit, and then backhand slapped the other half of his chieftain's face. Hengao and Great Axe watched in horror at their chief's head drooping silently, thinking that their boss had his neck broken by these 2 slaps. As for the chieftain's boss, both faces are blue, red, purple and black, and they are swollen and shiny. That doesn't seem to be a problem. The tumult at this moment naturally alarmed the more than a dozen royal soldiers standing guard outside the big tent. However, when these more than 10 people rushed into the big tent with various weapons in their hands, they were all dumbfounded. As the man who was lifted by the big man by the back of his neck like a turkey as his chief. It looks like, but how could his chieftain be so miserable? Why is his face like that? Why is it in that color? Are the 2 dumb chickens who are so scared that they are the leader of the horizontal sword and the leader of the giant axe? Aren't those 2 usually brave? Why are they so scared now? Also, the guy whose head is bleeding out like a small fountain, is it the leader of the blood arrow? The dozen or so fighters were dumbfounded, completely dumbfounded. It is estimated that their only thought at this time is, damn it, what is going on here? Shi Xiong's left hand loosened. Junaluska, who had been slapped with 2 slaps, fell to the ground with a grumbling sound, and his swollen and thrilling face also fell to the ground, making everyone else in the room worried. Don't want it, for fear of breaking the face of the chieftain. Shi Xiong clapped his hands, looked at the dozen or so dumb warriors, and said, there is nothing wrong with you here. If you are okay, go out and blow the trumpet, and call everyone in the royal court. As soldiers who guard the door, These fighters are naturally Junaluska's confidants. Naturally, they have also seen this big man's demeanor when he challenged the divine will exemption here, and they have also heard that the invincible record of the Expeditionary Army or the Burst Bear Brigade was completed under the command of this big man. It is no exaggeration to say that the big man in front of him is the of war in the hearts of most soldiers of the entire tribe. A soldier who seemed to be the little boss swallowed and asked, Guardian www.wuxiaspot.com, what do you want to do? Shi Xiong's eyes widened, and the little boss was so scared that he almost peed. Can you manage what I am doing? Don't you see what's going on here? Your chief arrested my people and my relatives. Now, the great high priest Kabru was also arrested. I was arrested for whatever reason. As the guardian of the high priest Kabru, I can't ask the respected chieftain this. Why on earth? Shi Xiong took a deep breath, calmed the anger in his chest, and said in a low voice to the little boss, go out and blow the horn. Call all the people living in Monongahela here, as well as those who have been my tribe you captured. I, the Great Bear, the guardian of the Kabru High Priest, and the highest commander of the Burst Bear Brigade, will confront our chief here in front of all the tribesmen. I want to ask our chief why he did this, and why he did it. As he said, Shi Xiong's eyes glared, and he roared, hurry up and don't make me angry. The little boss was so frightened that he staggered and ran out of the big tent. After a while, the melodious horn sounded. Chapter 440, Do You Dare to Swear? When the members of the Cherokee royal court living in Monongahela and the 4 guarding tribes came to the royal tent in disgrace, they were all stunned by the scene before them. A tall man was standing at the door of the big tent, and more than a dozen raging bonfires burned in front of the door of the big tent. The bright firelight exposed the surrounding area of tens of meters. The size of that big man is so amazing, but most of the Cherokee people know him, because he is the founder and supreme commander of the famous Expeditionary Army, and the guardian of the legendary Kabru High Priest. The reason why he became famous is because he successfully challenged the Divine Decree immunity last year, which is the kind of Divine Decree immunity without water. Of course, he is more famous in that he led an expeditionary force with only more than 2,000 people and defeated the Cree tribe with a total of 100,000 people, and solved an enemy that has not been resolved for hundreds of years. It is precisely because of the victory of the Carrie people in the southern expedition that this amazingly large man and his expeditionary army have become the most popular existence of the entire tribe. No one can deny that the big man in front of him is definitely the hero of the entire Cherokee tribe, and he is the kind of irreplaceable hero. Just the credit that he led the expedition to defeat the mighty Cree is enough to make him a hero in the history of his clan. And when he led the expeditionary army to defeat the Powhatans, and now he began to fight the Chicashes, his prestige in his clan has risen to the point where it can't be restored. But what did this person do today? Is he really ready to be a traitor, as the chief said? Otherwise, why would he do this? A few days ago, the most popular tribe in the entire tribe, that is, the legendary Kabul High Priest tribe, was captured by the 3 guarding tribes of the royal court, and the chief said very clearly, Kabul High Priest people of the tribe want to betray the clan. This made the Cherokee people living in Monongahela very angry. No matter how great your credit is, no matter how high your status is, no matter how good your status is, you can't do traitorous things. Your tribe can be a reclusive tribe, but it must not be a traitor. However, the high priest Bakarzu said that this was not the case, and the high priest Bakaruz did not approve of the chief's statement. The high priest insisted that the Kabulu high priest tribe had no traitors. On one side is the statement of the chief with the highest power, and on the other side is another statement of the tribal spiritual leader, which makes all the tribesmen living in Monongahela feel confused. Moreover, the subtle atmosphere that has permeated Monongahela during this period can be felt by even a teenager. At the beginning, most of the people still quarreled about this matter. After all, some people believed the chief's statement, but some also supported the high priest. But when this inexplicable atmosphere became more and more obvious, almost all the people of the tribe did not dare to comment on this matter. Until tonight, after the horn that summoned the entire clan was sounded, when they hurriedly walked out of their wooden houses, and then gathered before the king's big tent. The scene in front of them made these clansmen angry. It turns out that what the chief said is true. This man who has done a great job for the tribe really wants to betray the tribe. How else could he do such a thing? In the light of the bonfire, 3 people knelt down in front of the big man, and one was lying on the ground reluctantly. But who are these 3 people kneeling? Who is that man with a swollen face and black and purple? Not Chief Junaruska. And who is kneeling on either side of the chieftain? Who is not the leader of the 2 tribes of the 4 guardian tribes, the horizontal sword and the great axe? As for the dead man lying on the ground, who is not another leader of the guardian tribe, Blood Arrow? These are all big people at the top of Monongahela, but now they are embarrassed like this. Isn't this the big guy in front of him, and who else did it? Among other things, the chief who humiliated the tribe and the leaders of the 3 guarding tribes is a traitor. Almost all the tribe members were angry, but they couldn't do anything. Although they don't understand what man-made swords are, I don't understand the words "I am a fish and meat," and they don't understand what is a rat-throwing device, but the scene before them is that they dare not do anything. Fortunately, a person with enough weight appeared. The high priest of Bakarazu, guardian of the Kabru sacrifice. What are you doing? Why do you humiliate our chief and the 3 of them? The leader of the horizontal sword, the high priest Bakayut, slowly walked to the stone bear and asked how. Dear High Priest Bakaruzal, I can answer your question very clearly, and I can answer this question in front of all the people. However, before answering this question, I want to ask in front of everyone. Our honorable chieftain and these 2 leaders have a few questions. As long as our chieftain and these 2 leaders dare to swear to the Supreme Sun and tell the truth, I can tell everyone the answer to your question as the high priest. People. After a pause, the stone bear continued to say loudly, I, the great bear, the guardian of the Kabru sacrifice, the highest commander of the Burst Bear Brigade, the person who challenged the divine decree to save successfully, and the brothers who led the Burst Bear Brigade defeated the powerful Cree, the Powhatan, and the people who took over the Chickasha royal court are here to tell everyone that I have no idea of a traitor, and I have never acted of a traitor. My tribe, Ka the Blue High Priest tribe, also has no ideas and practices of traitors. It's just that I don't understand why I took my brothers outside to fight for the tribe. www.wuxiaspa.com. And our chieftain also has these few others. The leader of the tribe actually took away all my people and relatives from behind me. I don't understand why, I really don't understand, so I came, and I used this method to pay back to our chief. These tribal leaders confronted each other. Paper cannot contain fire, and the truth can never be concealed. As long as I get the truth, I will accept the punishment I deserve. Shi Xiong's words were loud, and all the clansmen, including the Kabru high priest in front of him, nodded slightly. Shi Xiong turned his head and asked Chief Junaruska, who was kneeling on the ground, Master Chief, now do you dare to swear to the Supreme Sun God, and say everything you say is the truth? Chief Junaruska raised his head abruptly, fixed his eyes on the stone bear, and then shouted loudly, this great bear is a traitor, a shameful traitor. My people, you must kill him. But, before this sentence was over, a big-footed girl kicked over amidst many exclamations and kicked Junaruska a big somersault with one kick. Chapter 441, Like a Dead Person. This kick made everyone stunned, but immediately, a huge coaxing sound rang. Shi Xiong took out the giant mountain knife that was on his back. In the Zio tribe, he used this knife to kill the ghost-crying wolf howling Yukai. In the light of the bonfire, the blade of the huge mountain knife shone with a heart-pounding cold light, and the sharp tip of the blade directly touched Junaruska's neck, making it hard to doubt that as long as this knife is slightly with force, Chief Junaruska's great head will be cut off. The noisy screams disappeared immediately, and everyone looked at the huge mountain knife in horror. Shi Xiong said coldly and loudly, Master Chief, if you ask you to swear, you will swear. Why do you provoke the people? Is there a ghost in your heart that you dare not swear to the Supreme Sun God? As soon as this sentence came out, everyone was silent. The Cherokee tribe believes in the Sun God, the main of the Cherokee tribe. No one dares to blaspheme the Supreme Sun God. And no one would do that. The corner of the high priest Bakarazu's mouth twitched slightly, and then his face returned to normal, and he said loudly, "Great Bear, I don't want you to do this to the chieftain until the truth is fully revealed." Great Bear glanced at the high priest and nodded slightly. If it hadn't been for the conversation of these guys just outside the big tent, knowing that the high priest of Bakarazu was on the side of Hong Yun, he would not pay attention to the high priest at this time. But now that he knew that the high priest was on his side, Shi Xiong had to give the high priest a face. The high priest Bakarazu took a deep look at the stone bear, then turned his head and said to Chief Junaruska, who was lying on the ground with a look of horror, Chief, I think if you don't want to make the scene more ugly, you'd better do what the Great Bear says." "Is it difficult to swear to the Supreme Sun God, or you don't believe in the Supreme Sun God?" This sentence can be said to be a bit ridiculous, and although it sounds very fair on the surface, it directly pushed Junaruska to the corner in the dark, unable to advance or retreat. The most important thing is that it was the high priest of the tribe who said these words, who was recognized as the closest to the among the tribe, and the spiritual leader of the whole tribe. In terms of theocracy, apart from the Kabru high priest, no one in the entire Cherokee tribe is more qualified to say such things than the Bakarazu high priest. Junaruska couldn't refute this. "If you can't afford to swear, it's disrespect to the Supreme Sun God," and even as the high priest Bakayut said, "Do you Junaruska not believe in the Sun God?" If that were the case, the clansmen present would be able to oust the chief without having to do anything with the stone bear. Just kidding, the chief is the highest leader of a tribe, but his status is far inferior to the Supreme Sun in the minds of the tribe. Even when every chief took office, he said that he was the will of the Supreme Sun God. If you dare not believe in the sun now, wouldn't it be deadly? Does Junaruska believe in the Sun God? That is of course yes. In this era, in this kind of social form that is still close to primitive society, let alone the Cherokee tribe, even other tribes, many gods are their most pious objects of worship. Although Junaruska is the chief of the Cherokee tribe, he is also very pious to believe in the Supreme Sun God. Therefore, under the circumstance of all eyes in full view, Junaruska, who was kicked, sat up slowly. In the presence of the high priest, he swore to the Supreme Sun God. As for whether he was telling the truth, Shi Xiong didn't care. Anyway, besides the chief, there were two other tribal leaders. Shi Xiong is not afraid of horizontal swords and giant axes and dare to lie. After all, blood arrows are still unclear. If they dare to lie, Shi Xiong doesn't mind turning them into blood arrows. Seeing that the high priest Bakarazu helped Junaruska up, the stone bear also took down the big bow without expression, and then inserted a few large and amazing iron arrows beside him. Sure enough, this move made Junaruska, who had just stood up, softened his legs and almost sat on the ground again. He had seen the power of this big bow with his own eyes, and he naturally understood what this big man meant by doing this. It is estimated that Junaruska's heart is also beeping. Isn't it okay not to have such a fun, you strong bear? This is the rhythm that is going to drive me to death. If I don't tell the truth, you plan to shoot me to death with this long bow. Shi Xiong doesn't care what the chief Junaruska thinks. Anyway, he really has decided to do so. "If you Junaruska dare not tell the truth, I must use the bowstring of this big bow to pin your head down." "Master, Chief, why did you take all the people of our tribe, even the high priest Kabru? And the food, cloth and all other things in our high tree tribe, you let your soldiers, it was snatched away. The originally prosperous high tree tribe now has an empty shell. Why did you do this?" Shi Xiong stood in front of Junaruska, looking down at him and asked angrily. After that, the giant mountain knife that had been held in his hand was thrust into the ground heavily by the stone bear, and Junaruska shuddered again. The stone bear now is truly a killer god, and the strong murderous aura on his body has been revealed undoubtedly. At this moment, Shi Xiong has nothing to hide. Junaruska's eyes turned between the giant mountain knife and the stone bear, and opened her mouth, but said nothing. In the end could only sigh long. The chief's performance caused the surrounding clansmen to sigh. No one is a fool, Everyone can see that this thing seems to be done by the chief. Shi Xiong ignored Junaruska www.wuxiaspa.com turned around and walked 2 steps, came to the front of Heng Dao, holding Heng Dao's neck with one hand. Amidst the exclamation of the crowd, he came to the front of Chief Junaruska and High Priest Bakaruzal. "Swear to the Sun God," Shi Xiong shouted sharply. Heng Dao looked up at the chief and then at the high priest, with a bitter expression on his face, but in the end he sighed and began to swear. When Heng Dao finished swearing, Shi Xiong said loudly, "Heng Dao, tell everything you know, in the presence of all the tribesmen, in the presence of the Bakaruzu high priest, in front of the supreme heaven face of the Sun God, tell everything you know. If you don't tell the truth, I promise I will cut your head off." Heng Dao's eyes stayed on the giant mountain knife for a long time, and finally he glanced at his chieftain helplessly, and finally sighed and began to tell. And Junaluska, who was still a little looking forward to it, looked like a dead person when he heard the things that Heng Dao told. Chapter 442, Pig Teammate. Shi Xiong was not reckless and chose Heng Dao. It was when he had nothing to communicate with Bone Spear before. Shi Xiong received a lot of news from Bone Spear about the royal court and the 4 guardian tribes of the royal court. The 4 guardian tribes of the Cherokee Palace have been passed on for many years. During the period, the chiefs have been replaced many times, but this guardian tribe named after the 4 weapons of sword, spear and axe has never been changed. Since it is the guardian tribe of the royal court, it is naturally the most trusted tribe of the chieftain. Therefore, although the names of the 4 guardian tribes have not been changed, the tribal leaders who rule the 4 tribes are the emperor and the courtier. It's like the Heng Dao tribe, the most powerful of the 4 guardian tribes, is actually a powerful force separated from the chiefs, and the chiefs of the Heng Dao tribe have always been held by the people closest to the chiefs. It is as if the leader of the Heng Dao tribe, the guy who was kneeling on the ground and talking, was Junaruska's own brother. Each chief usually has many sons. The best one will be chosen to inherit the position of chief, and the second best son will inherit the position of leader of the Heng Dao tribe. As for what the standard of excellence is, it is naturally the old chief who has the final say. His own son is naturally Lao Tzu, who is most qualified to judge. Once the old chief dies and the new chief succeeds to the throne, the position of the leader of the Heng Dao tribe will be changed at the same time. Just like Junaruska and Heng Dao, they are actually brothers. This was told to Shi Xiong by Bone Spear himself. However, this kind of thing is something almost everyone knows in Monongahela, that is, the tribe outside does not know it. Junaluska is excellent. Even Shi Xiong admits this. Although this guy may be a bit greedy, it is undeniable that Junaluska still has vision and courage. As Junaruska's own brother, Heng Dao, the guy who also inherited the title of the leader of the Heng Dao tribe, and his brother Junaruska are completely on the 2 extremes. In terms of Bone Spear, the leader of the Heng Dao tribe should not fall into the hands of such a person. But no matter what, the person who decided the leader of the Heng Dao tribe was not Junaruska, nor was it any other person, but the previous chief Junaruska. The Bone Spear and the horizontal sword are about the same age. They have been playing together since childhood, and he naturally knows the horizontal sword best. In the words of Bone Spear, that is that this horizontal sword actually obtained the position of the leader of the horizontal sword tribe by flattering and selling cuteness. Heng Dao is more than 10 years younger than Junaruska, and among all the sons of the previous chief Junaruska, Heng Dao is considered the youngest. Well, if you don't count the younger brothers, the sons of Heng Dao's age group, Heng Dao is the youngest. In China, there is a term one son and eldest grandson, meaning that the youngest son and eldest grandson are usually the most loved by the elders. In fact, such a situation seems to prevail among Indians. Heng Dao's ability is not outstanding. It is said that he is not qualified to be the leader of the Heng Dao tribe, but he couldn't hold back this guy's sweet mouth, and would be cute, and often coaxed the old chief to comfort him. So in the eyes of the old chief, Heng Dao is the son second only to Junaruska among all the sons. When the old chief passed away, Junaruska inherited the name of Chief Junaruska and became the new chieftain of the Cherokee tribe, and the cross sword also became the new leader of the cross sword tribe. Wolves travel thousands of miles to eat meat, Dogs travel thousands of miles to eat shit. The meaning is very simple. The country is easy to change, and the nature is hard to change. Heng Dao was not enough to beat him when he was young, but he wouldn't be much better when he was old. If he didn't know how to fawn on his eldest brother, and how to make him happy, maybe the leader of the Heng Dao tribe would have let his elder brother slap him a long time ago. Heng Dao is a very careful person, which is for the benefit. If it is hard to say, it is greedy for life and fear of death. He always takes the lead in good things, but once something dangerous happens, he runs faster than the grass spongy hare on the grassland. Just as Stone Bear wants to form an expeditionary army to conquer the Cree, the Cherokee Royal Court wants to send some soldiers to join the expeditionary army. It was supposed to be the strongest Heng Dao tribe, but because Heng Dao was afraid of death, his tribe did not come out. As the leader of the Blood Arrow tribe ranked second, Blood Arrow, he is a very good calculation guy. To put it ugly, he is a yin person. Naturally, he did not accept this kind of life that seemed to have a very bad prospect, so the Bone Spear tribe ranked third became the scapegoat in the eyes of Heng Dao and Blood Arrow at that time. It's just that they didn't expect that the expeditionary army had achieved great feats and great fame in one battle, which made the expeditionary army the army that Monongahela and even all the fighters of the entire tribe yearned for. Heng Dao and Xujian wanted to send someone to join the expeditionary force, but they got stuck at Shi Xiong. Old but not new. This is the strategy of the Stone Bear to form an expeditionary force or the Burst Bear Brigade. So even the soldiers of the Burst Bear Brigade who joined later are mostly from the Bone Spear tribe, the Crooked Deer tribe, and the Red River Water tribe. Regarding this matter, whether it is a horizontal knife or a blood arrow, it is naturally resentful. And the reason Janaruska decided to take action against the High Tree tribe was due to the agitation of these two guys. Shi Xiong knew that Heng Dao was a person who was greedy for life and fear of death, and that blood arrow was not a good bird, so Shi Xiong smashed the blood arrow trying to escape in front of Heng Dao with a stone cup. This must have frightened the cross knife, and Shi Xiong also showed the huge mountain knife, which increased the deterrent power of the cross knife. Sure enough, this greedy guy was so scared that Shi Xiong almost peed his pants. As for what could and could not be said, he had long been thrown away by him. As long as I can save my life, then naturally there is something to say. Therefore, how he and Blood Arrow instigated the chief to attack the Gaoshu tribe, and all the matters discussed between him and the chief were all told as if they were pouring bends from a bamboo tube. If the Blood Arrow is still awake, www.wuxiaspot.com, maybe that guy will refute it, but the Blood Arrow is hit by the Stone Bear. As for the giant axe, although this guy and Heng Dao are in the same fowl, Shi Xiong knew from the story of the Bone Spear that this guy was just missing a string in his mind. The great axe's force value is very high, but it is a pity that his mind turned slowly, which is a bit similar to the Meng Zhangfei in the Three Kingdoms. Counting on him to excuse Heng Dao, it is estimated that Heng Dao himself didn't have that idea. Sure enough, when Heng Dao finished talking about everything he knew amidst the growing discussion, Shi Xiong walked up to the giant axe again. Although the giant axe was a fierce man, he was really nothing in front of Shi Xiong. Among other things, the strong, almost substantial murderous aura on the Stone Bear made the giant axe terrified. Therefore, the giant axe, who inadvertently turned into a pig teammate, said very happily, which is considered to be a complete nailing of Heng Dao and Junaluska. I know very little, but I can assure the Supreme Son that Heng Dao is telling the truth. Chapter 443, Too Much Trouble. Honorable High Priest Baccalutes, don't you know that you still need my answer? Shi Xiong looked at the pieces of material in front of him with a green face, and then turned his head to the high priest after a long period of violent ups and downs in his chest. The high priest's face was also unsightly, which complemented the crowds of onlookers around him. At this time, the faces of the onlookers were not good, and they were all talking about something like a quarrel. It can be seen that many of these people have changed their views, but it seems that some chieftains are insisting on something. Anyway, the voice of discussion and quarrel was very loud, which made Shi Xiong's voice to the high priest Bakarzu a lot louder. In fact, when Heng Dao and Great Axe said such things, The truth has become clear. The expression of Chief Junaruska also proved all that Heng Dao said. The process of the matter was actually very simple, and even Shi Xiong felt a little stunned after hearing it. The Expeditionary Army's consecutive victories, especially in the first battle, relied on more than 2,000 people to defeat the Cree with a population of 100,000. This is certainly a great deed and merit, but it also triggered Junarus. Chief Ka was deeply afraid. It is estimated that Chief Junarusk never imagined that such a monster would appear under his own hands. However, with the Expeditionary Force's Eastern Expedition, they easily defeated the Powhatans and gave the Powhatans' royal court all of their heads, which made Chief Junaruska more uneasy. In fact, things are like this, whether it is ancient times or later modern times, or both at home and abroad. This is the case. That is, those in power do not allow a person who is not under their control to appear in the territory under their control, especially when this person appears to be extraordinarily powerful and has become so powerful that those in power can't be suppressed at all. That will inevitably trigger all sorts of unthinkable things to happen. In the ancient times of China, this situation was called Gongjiao Zinzu. And those people who have made great achievements in the past have hardly gotten a good end. Going farther, Wu Qi and Shang Yang were such people, and they ended up with a dead body. General Meng Tian of the Qin dynasty, who was a character like Gaoshu, was also forced to commit suicide by taking poison in the end. Han Zhenyu, right, helping Liu Bang establish the Han dynasty in one hand, the end is also the punishable tribe. The same is true of Yuve, the most sighing in China's history. There are many other similar situations. For example, the founding heroes who helped Zhuchongba defeat the Ming dynasty were almost all killed by Zhuchongba, and the founding minister of the Tang dynasty, Chang Sun Wuji, also did not get a good ending. The history of China is so, and there is no shortage of such things in the history of Europe. All in all, if you meet an enlightened boss, you may survive even if you are a master of skill. But once you meet a boss who is jealous and capable, then you dare to make a big difference. Then come on. You promise that there will be no good end. Obviously, Junaruska is not an enlightened and ambitious chief. Although he is only the chief of an indigenous tribe, he is the leader after all. Therefore, when the stone bear suddenly rose up like a comet, Junaruska was afraid. The Cherokee tribe is a powerful tribe. This is undeniable, but even the Cherokee tribe did not dare to easily provoke the Cree to the south, because the Cree to the south was even stronger than the Cherokee. However, such a powerful tribe was completely defeated by Shi Xiong with more than 2,000 people. What if this guy took someone to attack Monongahela? Junaruska didn't think that these people in Monongahela could stop the expeditionary army of the Stone Bear. Therefore, Junaruska was scared. This is no longer as simple as a simple fear. He, the chief, is really scared. Although the expeditionary army did not fight a few wars, they always swept past wherever they went. The most important thing is that the expeditionary army is not in the hands of the chief, Junaruska. Can Junaruska not be afraid? After all, his ancestors got the seat of Cherokee chief by means of rebellion. And now such a strong and extremely powerful figure suddenly appeared in the chassis under his jurisdiction. What do you make Junaruska think? But Junaruska had nothing to do with the Stone Bear. Therefore, this was the event that Junaruska forcibly ordered the expeditionary force to expedition to the west last winter. In fact, at that time, Junaruska had already separated the expeditionary force from the Gaoshu tribe, and then controlled the people of the Gaoshu tribe, in order to achieve the purpose of threatening the Stone Bear. As a result, Junaruska was frightened that the Great Bear not only disobeyed his orders, but also broke the legs of the messenger he sent. Although Junaruska also understood that winter was definitely not the season to send troops, Shi Xiong's actions aggravated his inner fear. Therefore, when the explosive Bear Brigade began to march west again, Junaruska asked the warriors of the horizontal sword, blood arrow, great axe and other tribes to come such an action. While the powerful expeditionary army was not at home, Junaruska's plan was successful. They used the identity of the royal court to beat the Gaoshu tribe by surprise. The entire tribe was arrested by the army sent by the royal court. Came back. Now that this has been done, Junaruska will definitely consider how to prevent the rescue of the Great Bear and the Expeditionary Army, so there are thousands of royal soldiers blocking the valley entrance south of Monongahela. Fortunately, Junaruska not only covets the commanding power of the Burst Bear Brigade, but also wants to obtain the Gaoshu tribe in its entirety. After all, the things that the Gaoshu tribe has shown in the past 2 years, even Junaruska is all envy and hate. If the royal court can get all of the Gaoshu tribe www.wuxiasput.com then the royal court's control and influence over the entire tribe will become greater, and the royal court will also have an invincible army. Therefore, the king's army did not kill these people from the Gaoshu tribe, but brought them back to the king's court. Originally Junaruska could be confident that the Great Bear could not lead an army to save his people. As a result, he did not expect that the army led by others would indeed not be able to enter Monongahela, but he personally did not. Here comes a beautiful beheading tactic. One person gave the entire king's court account. In general, everything that happened can be summed up as one reason that is the fault of Shi Xiong Jiao Zhenzu. Seeing that the high priest Bacaozu was not speaking, Shi Xiong shook his head slightly and continued loudly and said, "Honorable high priest, if it is your relatives and your people who encounter such a situation, what will you do?" "This is me's answer." The high priest Bacaozu raised his head and was about to say something, and there was noisy outside. Shi Xiong was tall, and when he looked up, he saw a group of people approaching again, and when they got close and entered the range of the bonfire light, a smile appeared on Shi Xiong's face. Chapter 444, That Man. These people who came are the clansmen of the Gaoshu tribe who were taken away. Hong Yun was standing in the forefront, wearing an ordinary animal skin suit. Of course, it was the green sky lark who had already begun to show her affection, who was fighting side by side with her, but Daijiao, Jiao Naiu, Diking Shan, Lile and others all stood behind the two women with a smile. The royal family members who originally surrounded this place also kept a wide enough space for those who came. If there is no description of the horizontal sword and the great axe, if the chief Junaruska does not behave like this, perhaps these royal clansmen will not have done this. But everything that just happened made most of the royal family members understand the ins and outs of the whole thing. It's not that the Gaoshu tribe is not against the royal court of the tribe, but the person who originally sat in the big tent of the king's court is not against the Gaoshu tribe. It was not the guardian of the Kabru high sacrifice who betrayed the royal court, but the chief who betrayed them. Although in the North American Indian tribes of this era, the chief has great power, but the chief is only the chief. He is not the king of a country with supreme power. Among these Indian tribes, even the chief cannot easily judge the life and death of others, especially this kind of thing that concerns the lives and deaths of thousands of a large tribe. It is not the chief who can decide to sever. The Indians of this era are indeed stupid, but this does not mean they are stupid. Everyone knows that if the chief's power is not restricted, then the chief can do something against an innocent tribe today for no reason. Then maybe tomorrow the chief will look unpleasant with his tribe. Who can guarantee that he won't be right? Do your own tribe? Therefore, no one hopes that similar things will happen to their own tribe. The Gaoshu tribe was obviously wronged or even betrayed, and they have the right to stand here. My guardian, you really did not let me down. You have guarded me and my tribe. Although Hong Yun did not wear her high priest costume, even this animal skin dress made her look a little embarrassed. But at this time she is undoubtedly extremely holy, and the high priest's demeanor is fully revealed. Shi Xiong bowed slightly to show respect. Hong Yun can be reserved, but the green sky lark standing next to Hong Yun cannot be reserved. Although she didn't run to the man who hugged her, there was an unconcealable smile and pride on her face. The man in front of him did not disappoint himself. He saved himself again. Originally caught here by the king's army, the green sky lark was a little bit reluctant. This is the royal army of a powerful tribe. When these people are caught here, is there any hope in the future? But green sky lark still has a kind of expectation in his heart, hoping that the omnipotent man, like the last time the Yuchi attacked the Zio tribe, once again rescued himself from the desperate situation of dying. Sure enough, he did it. And he did it single-handedly. Just like the last time he single-handedly drove Yukai away, this time he used the same method to take down the chief of the mighty Cherokee clan. He is really an omnipotent man. And this man is his own man. Therefore, Green Sky Lark is extremely proud now. The arrival of Hong Yun quickly calmed down the whole scene. Although it has been a long time since the High Priest Kabru had served as the High Priest of the tribe, the legend about the High Priest Kabru has never been broken among the Cherokee tribe. In fact, since the Kabru High Priest led his tribe to live in the Great Smoky Mountains more than 200 years ago, the subsequent Cherokee High Priest has never been hereditary for more than 3 generations passed on. Therefore, even if the High Priest Kabru has long ceased to serve as the High Priest of the tribe, there are more and more legends about the High Priest Kabru, especially the big prophecy that can be called a magical skill, as well as the several deeds of the High Priest Kabru who rescued the tribe. They were all myths. What you can't have is the best. This applies even to the Indian tribes of this era. Almost all the royal family members present have never seen the real Kabru High Priest, but this does not prevent them from admiring Kabru High Priest. After all, almost every one of them has been listening to Kabru High Priest since childhood. The legend grew up. Although the woman in front of her was dressed in a very ordinary dress, no one dared to look down upon her, because they all knew that the woman in front of her was the High Priest of Kabru of this generation. The High Priest Bakaraza hurried up to meet him. Although he is the current High Priest of the tribe, he knows very well that the young woman who inherited the title of Kabru High Priest is the spiritual totem of the entire tribe. Just as the 4 guardian tribes never change, the prestige passed down by the chief priest of Kabul for thousands of years has far surpassed that of the chief priest of his tribe. Hong Yun was not domineering. She also paid a salute to the High Priest Bakarzu. High Priest Kabru, how do you think this should be resolved? High Priest Bakarzu asked very solemnly. High Priest Bakarzu, it seems that you shouldn't ask me about this, right? Hong Yun said faintly. She was right. After all, she now only has the title of Kabru High Priest, but she did not serve as the High Priest of the tribe. Now that the chief of the tribe has had such a big scandal, the only one who has the power to deal with this matter is the tribal High Priest. Other people, even the chief leaders of the Red City Alliance and the White City Alliance, have no right to deal with this matter. No, High Priest Kabru, you have the right to deal with this matter. We need your guidance. Without your guidance, we don't know what to do. High Priest Bakaryut said seriously. This is not a nonsense by the High Priest Bakaryuts. Since the line of the High Priest Kabulu moved south to retreat, in the past 200 years, the chieftain of the Cherokee tribe has changed 3 times, and Junaris Chief Kabru is the 3rd chieftain to become a chieftain. www.wuxiaspot.com. But every time the chief changes, the chief priest Kabru will make a divination. When the first change was made, because of the prophecy made by the High Priest Kabru that this line was not suitable for the chieftain of the Cherokee tribe, that person did not become the chief although he controlled the royal court, because the people of the royal court do not recognize him. The second and third changes were also because of the approval of the Kabul High Priest. They were able to sit on the throne of the chief, which included Chief Junaruska's line. It is no exaggeration to say that although the line of High Priest Kabru is far away from the royal court, no chief dares to despise this line of High Priest. This time Chief Junaruska was also blinded by lard, and even wanted to try to kill the Kabru High Priest Hong Yun. When this matter was spoken through Hung Dao's mouth, it was inevitable for Hong Yun to participate in this matter. Really, let me say? Hong Yun asked with a smile, but his eyes were full of indescribable sharpness. Chapter 445, Can Do It But Don and number 039 The sights of thousands of people present focused on Hong Yun in an instant. Hong Yun walked a few steps forward and came to Junaruska, looking at the embarrassed chief in front of him, and asked faintly, before making the final decision, "You are still the chief of this tribe?" "So, chief, are the words that Heng Dao said just now true? Do you really want to burn me to death? Are you really going to replace the leader of the Bone Spear? And, you really want to take the Gaoshu tribe? Grab everything?" Hong Yun's voice became higher and higher, and in the end it had become very sharp. In fact, Hong Yun and a few high-level members of the tribe came here just now, but she didn't get close. Instead, she stood on the periphery and listened to all the narrations. Then she walked in after everyone from the Gaoshu tribe had arrived. Therefore, she heard all Heng Dao's remark just now. Junaluska suddenly raised her head, looking at the high priest Kabru standing in front of her, and suddenly roared like crazy. Yes, what you said is true. I do plan to so do it. But what's wrong? I am the chief of this tribe, and I have the right to do it. Everything in this tribe is mine, and you, High Priest Kabru, you have long since been the chief of the tribe priest. What right do you have to question me here? Junaruska wanted to stand up as he spoke, but when he was halfway up, he got a kick on the back of his knee and directly made him kneel on the ground. Behind him came the icy voice of the stone bear. Since you want to burn the High Priest Kabru, then you can kneel like this. If you dare to stand up again, I promise to break your legs. Junaruska's remarks naturally fell on the ears of the onlookers, and immediately aroused a louder voice of discussion. An inexplicable atmosphere quickly began to form among the tribe. Junaruska's remarks aroused public anger. Yes, there is some truth in what he said, but he has forgotten that this kind of thing can only be done quietly, not so openly. It's true that you are the chief, and that your power and status are the highest in the entire tribe. But you can't just play with the lives of your tribe just because you are the chief, and you can't treat your tribes good. Everything is drawn into your arms. All the property of the North American Indian tribes of this era belongs to everyone, not someone's. If according to what Junaruska said, whose property you fancy is so openly robbed, how will the life of the tribe live in the future? Don't worry about such a chief. In this era, North American Indians or Cherokees judged whether a chief is qualified or not. A good chief should be someone who can make the people live a good life. Otherwise, it is an unqualified chief. Even if you can't live a good life, the whole family is like this. You can't just grab other people's things, not to mention that you want to kill others in order to their things. Isn't this too scary? Obviously, Junaruska vented the same words, which touched the deepest fears in the hearts of these people. If such a person continues to serve as a chief, perhaps the next victim will be his tribe. Junaruska has forgotten that the North American Indian tribes of this era did not form a unified political power. He is not yet the emperor or king of the North American Indians. He is just the chief of a tribe. The social form of North American Indians in this era has not yet formed slavery or feudalism, and North American Indians in this era are still in a semi-primitive society. The North American Indians of this era, including the highly civilized Cherokee, were all based on clans and patriarchs, and then formed a tribe, and finally the entire Cherokee tribe was composed of many tribes. Therefore, the foundation of the entire tribe is the big and small clans and sub-clans, not you, the superior chief. Now, you, a high-ranking chief, use the power granted to you by many clansmen to seek personal gain for yourself. To paraphrase a sentence from later generations, what credibility does a chief like you have? Throughout the history of human development, almost none of the ancient and modern dynasties at home and abroad can last forever. Any dynasty has experienced power changes, and the reason for the power changes is the invasion of foreign enemies, and the other is the bottom-up opposition of the people of the country. I won't talk about the invasion of foreign enemies. It was caused by profit, and the bottom-up opposition of the people of the country is simply a variety of uprisings. Therefore, there is an idiom in China that makes the most incisive summary of this bottom-up power change phenomenon: the official forces the people to rebel. The foundation of a country is the general public, and as long as ordinary people can eat and sleep peacefully, who will revolt if there is nothing to do? But once there is a problem in the upper echelon of a certain dynasty, it will be too cruel to squeeze and exploit the general public below, then it will naturally cause public opposition. As the saying goes, family and country are in the world, that is, there is a family first and then a country. The overall interest of the country is the interest of many families. When the highest level of a dynasty desperately exploited the general public of the entire dynasty for their own self-interest, that would offend public anger, the public will naturally overthrow you and avoid being cruelly exploited. This phenomenon exists in ancient and modern dynasties or countries at home and abroad. Although these primitive and backward North American Indians don't understand these principles, they don't need to know much about this kind of thing. As long as the tribe thinks that you are a chief or a tribal leader, then the phenomenon of power change will naturally occur. To be honest, Junaruska did a good job. If what he did this time was not revealed by Shi Xiong and his brother Hangdao www.wuxiasput.com then this matter will slowly be suppressed over time. After all, Junaruska has such power, and he can also take over all of the Gaoshu tribe on the grounds of strengthening the tribe. But again, you can do something like this disgraceful thing quietly, and then use your power to slowly make it a reasonable thing. But you shouldn't say it so loudly. Once you say this kind of thing, and you say it outright and magnificently, then it immediately changes its nature. You are not working for the benefit of all the people, you are just working for your own personal benefit. And for personal gain, you even use the power granted to you by your clan to rob others, and even want to kill them. Who is not afraid of such a chief? Now even the clansmen of the 4 guarding tribes of the royal court, even the clansmen of the royal court, look at Junaruska's eyes. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 446, Conventional and Unconventional. Bakalazu High Priest, I think these people had better stop embarrassing from here. They have lost the face of our Cherokee tribe, Han Yun whispered to the high priest. The high priest of Bakarazu was clearly aware of this. If Hangdao had just taken off all the nasty because of being greedy for life and fear of death, then Junaruska's vent just now was to strip off all his faces. This is really a shame, not a general shame. Who would have thought that the dignified chief would have exposed his panties, and the war all covered with shit? What a shame. Although the people onlookers today are all from their own clan, that doesn't work either. So, at the suggestion of the high priest Kabru, and under the order of the high priest Bakaruzal, the 3 of Junaruska were detained. As for the blood arrow, this guy is rather unlucky. He was directly smashed into a vegetable by the stone cup of Shi Xiong. Well, there is no such thing as a vegetative in this era. Anyway, this guy can only lie in bed for the rest of the time, can breathe, but without consciousness. How many days does the ghost know he can hold on? After personally verifying the blood arrow's injury, the high priest Bakarzu made a lot of criticism of the stone bear's attack, but the stone bear said nothing to the high priest Bakarzu. I heard this guy want to move my woman. I didn't kill him on the spot and it was already a lot of face to him. Especially, the iron-blooded and domineering that Shi Xiong revealed when he said these words made the Bakarzu high priest secretly startled. 7 days later, the leaders of the 10 major tribes of the Cherokee tribe all came to Monongahela, as did the representatives of the Red City Alliance and the White City Alliance. The so-called 10 tribes refer to the 10 large tribes with a population of more than 3,000, plus the 4 guardian tribes and the royal court tribe, making a total of 15 large tribes. Of course, the Gaoshu tribe, as the victims of this incident, naturally cannot be absent. Moreover, the current Gaoshu tribe is not the small tribe it was a few years ago. The current Gaoshu tribe has a population of more than 3,000, which is comparable to the top 10 tribes. The most important thing is that the current strength of the High Tree tribe is definitely the strongest among the entire Cherokee tribe and even the entire North American Indians. Now the 1st Regiment of the Burst Bear Brigade is all the fighters of the Gaoshu tribe, and a large proportion of the middle-level officers in the other 4 regiments are also served by the veterans of the Gaoshu tribe. Now no one dares to point fingers at the Gaoshu tribe. The last few guys who wanted to attack the Gaoshu tribe are still staying in the imprisonment of the royal court. Except for the High Tree tribe, the 15 large tribes are very important in the entire Cherokee tribe. Needless to say, the Wangtang tribe is the tribe of the chieftain. with the largest scale and strength. Not to mention the 4 guardian tribes. The tribe that can become the guardian tribe of the royal court is absolutely powerful in its own right. As for the top 10 tribes, all of them are very powerful tribes, like the Crooked Ears tribe of Karaklilu, the Red River tribe like the Wild Lion, and the Big Hill tribe guarding the north of the royal court. These 10 tribes can be said to be the backbone of the entire Cherokee tribe. For example, the chiefs of the Red City Alliance who wars against foreign masters and the chief leaders of the White City Alliance who is peaceful for the inner masters are all held by the tribal leaders of these 10 tribes in turn. The 10 tribes plus the 4 guardian tribes and the royal court tribe make up almost half of the total population of the Cherokee tribe. It shows the power of these large tribes. And the top forces of these Cherokee tribes gathered in Monongahela, with only one purpose, and that was to determine the ownership of the new chief of the tribe. The things Junaruska did to the High Tree tribe, although not spread throughout the Cherokee tribe, the 10 tribes all know about it. The royal court broke out such a huge scandal, and also caused the suffering master in the matter to reverse the situation, so Junaruska naturally no longer qualified to serve as the chief. In fact, once this kind of thing is revealed, the High Tree tribe as the suffering master, as far as the strong bear individual is specific, they will kill you Junaruska, and no one will say anything. Can you rob someone of their property or even a woman, so you don't allow them to retaliate? There is no such reason in the world. Especially among the North American Indians of this age, whoever has the big fist is the truth. Therefore, the Great Bear did not kill Junaluska on the spot, which was already a shame. However, Junaruska absolutely can no longer serve as a chief. Even if the original most powerful royal tribe wanted to continue to support Junaruska, they did not dare to persist at this time. Don't forget, there is also the highest commander of the Burst Bear Brigade here. If you dare to continue to support Junaluska, people will dare to kill you directly, regardless of the fact that the royal tribe was once the most powerful tribe in the entire tribe. It was not even a scum in front of the 700 armed explosive Bear Brigade soldiers outside. Therefore, these tribal leaders who came to Monongahela, as long as they are not brain damaged, no one dare to publicly support Junaruska at this moment. No one wants to risk his life to support a former chief who has no future at all. Since the old chief can no longer continue to serve as chief, then the election of a new chief has become a matter of urgency. As a royal tribe, the Junaruska tribe is naturally not suitable for becoming a royal tribe, but this tribe itself is very powerful and has a large population, so this tribe is still eligible to vote. But they recommend the chief. The power of the candidate is gone. The 4 guardian tribes were also very unlucky. The leaders of the 4 tribes were not there except the Bone Spear because they were still conquering the Chickasaw from the west. The horizontal sword and the giant axe are squatting in the prison, and the leader of the Blood Arrow tribe, Blood Arrow, has become a vegetable. Therefore, the 4 guardian tribes merely sent representatives to participate in this extremely high-profile election meeting. Similarly, they now only have the right to vote and not the right to recommend. In other words, the new chief of the tribe is likely to come from the top 10 tribes. Regardless of the fact that most of the Indian tribes now use the hereditary chieftain system. In fact, this kind of election is the most formal way to determine the chief, because all the Indian tribes, especially the majority of Indian tribes in North America, the initial way to determine the chief is through elections. When the old chief passes away, every new chief is elected through elections, not sons to succeed Lao Tzu. This hereditary system of being a chief. I just don't know when this election system has gradually disappeared, replaced by the hereditary chieftain system, that is, the previous old chief determines the candidate for the next new chief. In addition, this electoral system gradually began to disappear among the North American Indian tribes. In recent hundreds of years, the chiefs of the Cherokee tribe are hereditary. The old chiefs appoint the next successor before death, and the successors are often the chief's sons. So when this hereditary inheritance method replaced the electoral system and became the second conventional method, the electoral system gradually disappeared. Of course, there is another unconventional way for chieftains to take office, that is, a method similar to mutiny to become a new chief. For example, 100 years ago, the way Janaruska's ancestor became the new chieftain through soldiers was an unconventional method. Chapter 447, Joint Recommendation. However, when the leaders of all the big tribes gathered together in the royal tent, their embarrassment came again. Representatives of the 10 major tribes plus the Bone Spear tribe all proposed their respective recommended chief candidates. Of course, these recommended people are the tribal leaders of these 10 major tribes. In the case that the royal court tribe and the 3 major tribes of the 4 guardian tribes have lost the right to recommend, if anyone is qualified and who has the ability to be the new tribal chief, then apart from the leaders and bones of these 10 tribes except for the spear, other people probably don't really have this qualification. But the problem is, commanding a tribe and commanding a tribe are completely different things. Even Kara Klilu, who has served as the chief of the Red City Alliance for a long time, seems to be unable to be the chief of a super tribe like the Cherokee. If it were before the expedition of the Burst Bear Brigade, the leader of these tribes might still have the ability to serve as the chief of the tribe, but with the Cherokee's territory and population expanded nearly twice in just 2 years, the requirements of a chieftain are even higher. Moreover, although the Royal Court tribe, the Horizontal Sword tribe, the Blood Arrow tribe, and the Giant Axe tribe have lost the right of recommendation, they still have the right to veto. After all, these 4 big tribes unite, and the population alone is close to 15,000. This is definitely a force that cannot be underestimated. If these 4 tribes unite to oppose someone, the opposing person may really not be able to sit on the throne of the chief. After all, this is Monongahela. This is the base camp of these 4 tribes. When the 10 tribes came, only their tribal leaders and a few guards came. If it weren't for the suppression by soldiers of the 1st Regiment of the Burst Bear Brigade, this kind of election is simply impossible to start. Therefore, even Kara Klilu or the Old Lion failed under the combined opposition of the 4 tribes. So this election has a strange phenomenon. The top 10 tribes with the right to recommend have launched their respective chief candidates, but the other 4 tribes that lost the right to recommend but still have the veto power secretly united to veto these candidates. The wrangling that is common in the politics of later generations just appeared in the chief election of this primitive and backward Indian tribe. If this happens in later generations, Shi Xiong is naturally familiar with it. This kind of wrangling phenomenon will often appear in the political circles of many countries in later generations, and if only wrangling is okay, many countries have even made big fights in the highest parliamentary meetings, and people's brains become dog brains. Although the Cherokee chief election is an important event for the tribe, even Shi Xiong is a little bored in this constant wrangling situation. It is now a good time, in Shi Xiong's eyes, whether it is going abroad or replanting the crops in the fields. It is far better than staying with them here to talk nonsense. Especially this kind of nonsense has continued for 5 or 6 days. Seeing the weather getting warmer and warmer, Shi Xiong is really impatient. If it weren't for the suppression by the soldiers of the 700 Burst Bear Brigade, he really wanted to leave. As a result, on the 2nd day when Stone Bear thought about leaving, Jorakaru and the leader of the Red River Water tribe, Mad Lion, suddenly withdrew the number of chief candidates they had previously recommended, that is, both of them. Because the 2 of them withdrew their respective recommended quotas, according to the regulations, they still have the opportunity to recommend another quota, but this is the final quota. If their respective recommended quotas can't pass, then they will lose the chance to finally reach the top of the Cherokee chief. However, they did not each recommend another spot but joined forces to propose a new chief candidate. To everyone's expectation, including Stone Bear, is that this place, jointly recommended by Kara Klilu and Mad Lion, turned out to be a strong bear from the Kabru High Priest tribe, that is, the High Tree tribe. No, Great Bear is not eligible to be a candidate for chieftain. Yes, the Gaoshu tribe originally did not have the right to recommend, and Dali Zhong did not qualify as a candidate. How can an outsider participate in the chief election? When Kara Klilu and Mad Lion jointly proposed this recommended quota, it was indeed strongly opposed by the Royal Court tribe, the Horizontal Knife tribe, the Blood Arrow tribe, and the giant axe tribe. It was just that the other 8 tribes of the top 10 tribes did not express their opposition in the first place. This situation seems to have long been thought of by Joe Laklelu and the Mad Lion. The fierce lion stood up as soon as he slapped the table. Representative of the royal tribe, you said that Shi Xiong is not qualified to be a candidate for the chief. Can you tell the reason? Why is Shi Xiong not qualified? Isn't Shi Xiong a member of our tribe? If you can speaking out the proper reason why the Great Bear is not eligible to be a candidate, then this quota will be considered invalid. As soon as these words were spoken, the representative of the Wangting tribe was choked. That's right, why is the Great Bear not qualified? Just now, the representative of the royal court tribe opposed it when his brain heated up, but now you ask him to tell the reason why the Great Bear cannot be a candidate. He really can't say it. Of course, if he talks nonsense, but here is the sacred king's court. If you dare to talk nonsense here, someone will immediately pull you out and chop you up to feed the dog. One sentence sprayed the representative of the Wangting tribe, and the wild lion turned his head and shouted at the representative of the Hangdao tribe. The Gaoshu tribe has no recommendation right. Does the Gaoshu tribe have the recommendation right? And what is the relationship between the strong bear being a candidate? The Great Bear is recommended by Joe Laklelu and at www.wuxiaspa.com. Even if the Gaoshu tribe does not have the right to recommend, we will always have it. Besides, no one stipulates that the tribe with the right to recommend can only recommend itself. People of the tribe, why can't I recommend the Great Bear together with Jorikrilu? Also, if you can't tell why the Great Bear is not qualified to be a candidate, don't blame Jorikru and I after today's end. Lu is looking for a duel with you. The representative face of the Hangdao tribe was shocked as soon as the words of Mad Lion spoke. Joe Laklelu is better, but who doesn't know that this old lion of the Red River Water tribe is a famous warrior? Fighting him, it is simply death. Mad Lion ignored the scared-faced guy, turned his head and spouted at the representative of the Blood Arrow tribe. If you have the courage, you can say what you just said again. The Great Bear is an outsider. Is your mother dear? Mother, do you dare to say it again in front of Dolly Bear? I think your kid just doesn't want to live, right? Dare to say Dolly Bear is an outsider. Who gives you the courage to say this? You are not afraid of being strong. Will the bear be torn in half? Even if the Great Bear doesn't mind. You insult the greatest hero in the history of a tribe like this. Do you think I dare not tear you up? The face of the representative of the Blood Arrow tribe suddenly turned pale. Chapter 448, Old Lion. The Mad Lion, the leader of the Hongshui tribe, suddenly turned into a furious lion today. Well, of course it is not a lion that bites and tears with paws, but a mad lion in the debate world. It is estimated that no one would have thought that this old lion, who only believed in fists, had such a good eloquence. But what the old lion said was true, and no one could argue what he said. The first is whether the Great Bear, jointly recommended by him and Joe Laklelu, is eligible to be a candidate for the chief. Of course there is. According to regulations, as long as they are members of the Cherokee tribe, they are eligible to be candidates for chieftain. So, from this point of view, it is absolutely okay for them to jointly recommend the Great Bear by Mad Lion and Joe Laklelu. As for whether the Gaoshu tribe has the right to recommend, it is different from whether the Great Bear can become a candidate for the chief. Okay? Don't forcibly pull the donkey's lips and the horse's mouth together, okay? Yes, the Gaoshu tribe does not have the right to recommend, but any person in this tribe has the qualifications to be a candidate for the chief. This has nothing to do with the tribe. Although the chief candidate must have prestige, must have a significant contribution to the tribe, and so on, such requirements, but these requirements are still a problem for the Big Bear? At present, who does not know about the Great Bear and the Burst Bear Brigade in the entire Cherokee? In terms of prestige alone, the Great Bear, the guardian of the Kabru High Priest, the founder and the highest commander of the Burst Bear Brigade, has conquered the Cree and defeated the Powhatans, and now he has cut his mortal enemy to the Kasha. The king's court was done in one pot, and only in terms of prestige, who in the entire tribe can compare? And in terms of contribution to the tribe, who can compare to the Great Bear with the record of the Burst Bear Brigade? This is a serious way of opening up the territory. In less than 2 years, the territory controlled by the entire tribe has been nearly twice as large. Who can compare this kind of contribution? Regardless of the dynasty, ancient and modern, China and foreign countries, the opening up of the territory will always contribute the most. This principle still applies to the primitive and backward Cherokees. Let's talk about other things, whether it's steel making salt or other things. Are they doing poorly? In particular, the promotion of new farm tools and the way to tame bison have greatly alleviated the food crisis of the entire tribe. What contribution can you compare to this? Although the promotion of new farm tools and the methods of taming bison have not been implemented in all tribes, everyone knows that in 2 or 3 years at most, the whole tribe will use this new farm tools and will also use it with advanced farming methods. In the next few years, the food problem that has plagued the tribes for hundreds of years will be completely resolved. If it is said that with such contributions and achievements, it is not possible to become a candidacy for the chief, then the entire tribe will never be able to single out a candidate that meets the requirements. Therefore, it is absolutely no problem for the Great Bear to become the candidate of the tribal chief. Even a picky person can't find faults in this regard. Of course, you can say that the Big Bear beat Chief Junaruska. This is a violation of the rules, but the problem is that if the things Junaruska do are placed on you, on your tribe, what would it do? The Great Bear didn't kill Junaruska on the spot, even if it was already very disciplined. What else can you ask for? People have worked so hard to create such a large family business. No matter how Junaruska is the chief, you can't just blatantly looting other people's family business, right? Not to mention, that guy also coveted the pregnant wife of the other man. Aunt can bear it, uncle can't bear it. Therefore, this kind of thing cannot be put on the table at all. If you dare to pick things up from this aspect, people will definitely dare to drag you out of the duel, and others will never object. If you have the courage, if you have the ability to single-handedly challenge the Big Bear, you should pick something up in this matter. After the initial surprise, Shi Xiong sat in the corner without saying a word, watching the old lion spray those who opposed it. He finally saw the other side of this old lion. To be honest, the relationship between the stone bear and the mad lion is not very close. At least this old lion is compared with Jolakriulu. The relationship between Jolakriulu and the stone bear who has fought side by side with the stone bear, be more intimate. However, Shi Xiong and the old lion have been in contact with each other several times, and they have drunk a few times with each other, and the relationship is still very good. Some time ago, the soldiers of the 1st Regiment of the Hungry Bear Burst Brigade were able to hold on to Monongahela because they received food from Karaklilu and the old lion. Therefore, Shi Xiong must accept a great favor from Crazy Lion. Now the old lion came forward to confront others for himself, which made Shi Xiong admire the old lion even more. And this old lion is really a very righteous old guy. Seeing that the dry-mouthed old lion sprayed all the opponents with nothing to say, Shi Xiong smiled. The next moment, he stood up suddenly, because he felt that at this moment, it was time to express his meaning. To be honest, before being recommended by Jolaklilu and Mad Lion, Stone Bear didn't think about being the chief by himself. It's just that he didn't find a suitable reason to let himself sit on the position of chief of the Cherokee tribe. No matter how crazy Shi Xiong is, his soul also comes from China in the 21st century. The education he received from an early age made it difficult for him to do the kind of thing that relied on killing his own tribe to sit on the throne of the chief. Although mutiny was the fastest method in the upper ranks, Shi Xiong really couldn't do it. From this point of view, there is still a gap between Shi Xiong and becoming a real qualified leader. www.wuxiaspa.com. However, now Jorikaru and the Mad Lion give Shi Xiong a chance. If Shi Xiong catches it again, if he can't help it, he can find a piece of tofu and kill himself. Seeing that the stone bear who had not spoken stood up, the king's big tent, which was originally noisy like a vegetable market, suddenly quieted down strangely. Everyone's eyes were focused on the stone bear, and there was a meaning in the eyes. Very different. Like the leaders of the 8 tribes of the 10 tribes, except for the Crooked Deer tribe and the Red River Shui tribe, they are full of envy in the eyes of the stone bear. Although they are the leaders of the 8 tribes, they are very self-aware. Once the big man in front of him stood up, there would be no other people's affairs in the chief's seat. Compared to this big man, other people really can't put on the table. As for the representatives of the 4 major tribes, including the Wangting tribe, Shi Xiong looked angry but helpless. They really want to oppose it. Can they oppose it? But when Jiao Niu, Hong Yun and others looked at Shi Xiong, their eyes were all gratified. Chapter 449. If you choose me as the chief, if you choose me to be the chief of the tribe, then I will bring you and all the people of the tribe a most beautiful future. Since this time has come, Shi Xiong has no more humble thoughts, so the first sentence when I stand up expresses my attitude. People Zhou Laklilu and Mad Lion gave themselves such a chance. Shi Xiong didn't want to disappoint others' kindness. Since there is a chance and there is still a big chance to become the leader of this tribe, why do you want to give up? The prosperity of the world is for profit, and the hustle and bustle of the world is for profit. The ancient Huaxia had this classic saying long ago. Similarly, in the Western world, there are sayings such as there are no eternal friends or enemies, only eternal interests. Although this group of Native American Indians in North America does not have such a classic saying, the same principles still apply here. Since you want to be a chief, then show enough benefits to these people in front of them, and it is the benefits they can get, then these people will definitely support themselves. As for those tribesmen, once they promote the Gaoshu tribe set to the entire tribe, so that all tribesmen have food, can eat, wear, and live well, who will oppose themselves? Seeing everyone looking at him, Shi Xiong smiled slightly and waved his hand behind him. A fast horse in a uniform immediately walked in from outside the big tent, gave Shi Xiong a roll of white cloth, and then turned around, went out. Shi Xiong walked to the side of the big tent, opened the roll of white cloth, and then hung the roll of white cloth on the big tent, and the things painted on the white cloth were immediately displayed in front of everyone. Come, and have a look, I will show you our bright future now. Everyone stood up curiously and walked to the roll of white cloth. What is this? It looks like a map? Map? Never seen such a map. What are these colorful things? A series of questions immediately popped out of the mouths of these tribal leaders. Of course, people like Bigfoot, Hong Yun, and Kara Klilu all smiled because they had seen this map a long time ago. It was precisely because they had seen this map that they were completely moved by the young big man in front of them, and then they became Stone Bear's most powerful supporters. In the end, the Gaoshu tribe had such a huge change in just over 3 years. Shi Xiong looked at these clumsy tribal leaders, smiled and said, "Yes, this is exactly a map, and it is also a map of the land we live in. Look, this small green area, this is the actual area currently controlled by our tribe, including the Cree territory in the south, the Powhatan territory in the east, and the Chickasha territory we are conquering. Now these areas have been actually controlled by us." When the tribal leaders heard these words, all of them showed incredible expressions. Although this map is not very detailed, it can basically show the entire North American continent. Great Bear, why did we conquer the Cree, the Powhatan, and the Chickasha? The territory controlled by our tribe is still so small? This is indeed the case. Judging by the standards of future generations, the territory currently controlled by the Cherokee is roughly equivalent to the later generations of Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, and the eastern half of Alabama. And this area, not to mention the entire North American continent, even in later generations of America, this area only accounts for less than 1/10 of the area of the United States. This is indeed the case. You may all think that the territory we control is already large, but in fact, the territory we control is not only small, but too small. Compared to the land we live in, we can now control the site is too small. Great Bear, what is this blue area in the north? A tribal leader asked. This is the Great Lakes area where our tribe once lived. Now, look here, our tribe used to live in this small area. with the Iroquois to the east and the Delawares to the west. The Stone Bear pointed to later generations, said a small area south of Lake Erie. As soon as these words were spoken, an unwilling look appeared on everyone's face. After being silent for a while, a tribal leader asked, "Great Bear, can we return to that land?" Along with this question, it is the look in the eyes of many tribal leaders. The Stone Bear laughed. "Of course, if you choose me as the chief of the tribe, then I can assure you and all the people of the tribe that I will be able to lead our army within 10 years at most, maybe within 6 or 7 years, to conquer all the Iroquois and the Dravas there. I want the Iroquois and the Dravas to be servants and slaves of our Cherokee. At this point, my Great Bear can be supreme," the son swears. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's expression suddenly became excited. Although that small area is far less than the territory currently controlled by the tribe, it is the place where the Cherokee tribe originated, and that is the true hometown of this tribe. Which of the people present didn't grow up listening to stories about their hometown? Which of them doesn't want to return to their hometown in their lifetime? However, the powerful Iroquois and the Delaware prevented the Cherokee from returning to their hometown. Returning to the hometown is a nightmare that lies in the hearts of all Cherokee people, and at the same time, this is also the thing that all Cherokee people look forward to most. After a long time of excitement, a tribe leader asked, "Big Bear, in terms of the current strength of our Burst Bear Brigade, we can fight to conquer the Iroquois and the Delaware now, but why wait so much long?" Shi Xiong glanced at the leader www.wuxiaspa.com and then pointed to the large area west of the Mississippi River and said, "It's very simple, because we have to turn this large area into our tribe's territory first, and then wouldn't it be better for us to return to our hometown with such a great result?" Shi Xiong heard a lot of swallowing sounds. Obviously, these words completely evoke the desire in the hearts of these leaders. Not to mention them, even Bigfoot, Hong Yun, and Joe Lacrilu, who have heard Shi Xiong say these words several times, when they heard these words again, their eyes were still hot. Who has seen this huge central plain and western mountain area, and the tribe can conquer such a huge territory? Who can bear it? As long as you choose me as the chief, you, and you, Shi Xiong pointed his finger one by one. This large area is your people, the place where the horse is galloping. There is where you have the final say. Then, Shi Xiong heard a large swallowing sound again. Chapter 450, Chief. The North American Indians of this era are actually very easy to be fooled. When these native Indians, who can only live in a palm-sized area for their entire lives, suddenly saw the wider sky outside, they were destined to be easily crippled. If there is something that can't be solved by drawing a pie, then draw another pie. Shi Xiong drew 2 big cakes for these tribal leaders. One big cake is to return to his hometown, and the other big cake is a broader land. When the 2 big loaves fell, these tribal leaders immediately knelt. Well, in Shi Xiong's words, "This is not for me to fool you, I just show you in advance what is destined to happen in the future." I, the guardian of the dignified Kabru high priest, the son of God, the most mysterious traverser, and the chief who is about to become the largest tribe in North America, how can I fool you? Do I need to fool you? Are the soldiers of the 1st Regiment of the 700 Blasting Bear Brigade outside really a display? As a result, the position of the chief who had been arguing for 5 or 6 days was finally settled on this day. Not only Kara Klilu and Mad Lion support Stone Bears, but Bigfoot, the currently most powerful tribal leader of the Cherokee, also supports Stone Bears. Coupled with the strong support of Hong Yun, who is more noble, the tribal leaders who have been crippled can only make this big man the new chief of the tribe. When this confession was announced by the high priest of Bakaruzal himself, the whole Monongahela was boiling. Although the senior leaders of the 4 guardian tribes are reluctant to accept this fate, they can't stand the tribe's liking. It is true that Stone Bear has led the soldiers of the Burst Bear Brigade to fight in the north and south for the past 2 years, and has created a huge reputation in the entire tribe. In the Bone Spear tribe, among the 4 guardian tribes, many warriors have become soldiers of the Burst Bear Brigade, and these soldiers have also won countless honors. There is such an example that the warriors of the other three tribes all hope that they can become a part of the Burst Bear Brigade, and then work hard for the tribe and their families, thereby gaining supreme glory. However, it is a pity that the recruitment of soldiers before the Burst Bear Brigade was very strict. Even if the soldiers of the three guarding tribes were urgent, the Burst Bear Brigade never recruited anyone from it. Now, the founder and supreme commander of the Explosive Bear Brigade has become the chief of the tribe, and announced that the Explosive Bear Brigade will be expanded immediately. The main source of troops is the three guardian tribes and the 10 major tribes. How can this not make these fighters excited? Of course, the Stone Bear who issued this order immediately received the support of many tribesmen of the three guardian tribes. What is this order? It is the visible benefit. Everyone knows that if you follow the Explosive Bear Brigade, you can eat meat, and you can get huge military exploits. Now that the Explosive Bear Brigade has expanded its army, the soldiers who were eager to join the Explosive Bear Brigade but were unable to enter, will be able to eat the same meat as those of the Explosive Bear Brigade, and they will be able to obtain huge military exploits. For these ordinary tribal warriors, this is the visible benefit. In fact, whether it is a tribe or a country, the requirements of ordinary people as the main body are very simple. As long as anyone can feed themselves, as long as anyone can make their lives a little better, then they will support whoever. This point is the same whether it is the developed countries of later generations or the primitive and backward Indian tribes. On the 10th day after the confession of the Great Bear as the new chieftain of the tribe, all the high-level commanders of the Explosive Bear Brigade, including the Bighorn Sheep and the Bone Spear, all came to Monongahela. The fast-flying carrier pigeons took the news of Stone Bear's becoming the new chief into the hands of the senior officers of the Western Expeditionary Army. At this time, the Western Expeditionary Army had already laid down a French fortress near Memphis. The Chickasaws around the fortress are being encircled and suppressed. In fact, by this time, the West Expedition was basically over, except for a few Chickasaw tribes that have not yet been discovered. The entire Chickasaw territory has almost been surrendered. It was for this reason that the Bighorn Sheep, the supreme commander of the Western Expeditionary Army, decided to return immediately. Of course, the French military fortress that was just defeated also left the necessary soldiers behind. For some time to come, this fortress will completely cut off the French navigation on the Mississippi River, and at the same time capture more French armed inland ships. And this French fortress that had just been shot down was also renamed the Memphis Fortress by Bighorn Sheep in accordance with the instructions of Stone Bear in advance. Now although the large forces of the Western Expeditionary Army have begun to return, there are still 500 Burst Bear Brigade soldiers stationed in the Memphis Fortress. At the same time, the fortress is also equipped with 10 55 mortars and a full 100 grenadiers. With these heavy firepower at the gate, plus more than 200 soldiers with blasting bear rifles, even if the French came to a division, there was nothing to do with this fortress. With the effective range of artillery in this era, it would not pose any threat to the fortress of Memphis in any way. And as long as the French artillery appears within 2 kilometers, the 55 mortar can knock out the enemy's artillery. My shooting range is far. I'm so awesome. You have the ability to bite me. After quickly arranging the tasks of the left-behind soldiers, the Bighorn Sheep took part of the senior officers of the Western Expeditionary Army to ride to Monongahela on horseback. They want to wish their boss, the chief of the tribe. Of course, it is more important to listen to the boss's next plan, especially the military plan. If you let the Bighorn Sheep engage in people's livelihood construction, they are clubs www.wuxiaspa.com, but if you let them engage in military operations, then they are more active than anyone else, and more professional than anyone else. In fact, after the Eastern and Western expeditions, the Bighorn Sheep has fully grown up. It's like this Western expedition. Under his leadership, the Western Expedition Army completed the military plan made by Stone Bear in advance, and even the final result was greatly exceeded. This is what a qualified commander should do. Obviously, these high-level military officers, including the Bighorn Sheep, are using one victory after another to establish their process of transforming into a qualified or even excellent commander. Of course, this process is more than just fighting and winning battles. The support of the entire tribe is the most critical. Now, his own boss has become the chief of this tribe, and the support from the tribe must be no problem, and in the future, it will never happen that the soldiers fight on the front line while the family members stab the knife in the back. Now the bighorn sheep want to know what the boss's plan is in the future. They also want to achieve a more brilliant victory with the support of the boss. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.